Welcome aboard. And now we're streaming live. Welcome aboard, everybody. Let's get out the social media. Let everybody know. We're going to need our Twitter to figure some stuff out. Yeah, all right. Let's get the stream online here. One moment, uno momento. Oh man, like my streams. There we go. There we go. Okay, so tonight I need to figure out. The big goal of tonight is to figure out if we should open some more boxes of Modern Horizons to sell the singles. What I'm doing here is I'm getting my tea ready. I'm gonna have some tea, talk about it, look at some numbers, and figure it out. So, we already crunched the numbers. I don't have the spreadsheet because a friend of mine, my partner, did it. He crunched the numbers and he said that, hey, opening these boxes for singles is not a good proposition. It's not a winning proposition. After fees, shipping, and after having people working, paying people to work and pack those orders and stuff like that, the return is going to be kind of like a negative 8% return. So we would lose 8% by opening the boxes and then trying to sell the singles, if we assuming even distribution. So assuming that when we open up, like let's say we open 50 boxes of Modern Horizons, and then assuming that those were all evenly distributed and that we got a good distribution of the rares and mythics, that even then we would still lose about 8% after fees and everything. So the math is not working out to whether we should open them and just sell the cards at the price that they're at right now. So the question becomes, should we still open the boxes but price the cards differently, hoping that the market comes up to meet those prices? So like, for example, if we thought that Urza would go up to $60, then the strategy would be like, okay, yeah, let's open the boxes now and then let's just price it at 60 and wait for the market to meet it. Now, if Urza's never going to get to 60, then that's a losing proposition, because then it's already negative 8% now, and let's say Urza drops down to 30, then we've lost $13, of every Urza that we open. So we got to kind of figure out, if we're going to open the boxes, what cards are we going to price high, and which ones are we going to try to blow out so that we can recoup the cost. So there's a little bit of thought exercise. We're not going to necessarily do that. We might not even open the boxes, but this is how we find out, should we open them. So the first thing I want to do is I just want to figure out what is happening with the set. Okay, so that's the first thing, is let's figure out what is being done with the set. What cards are people brewing with? What cards are people excited about? We need to determine which cards have legs based on the early exposure and which ones don't. Now, I'll show some examples of this kind of situation here. I'm sure sooner or later we'll find a deck list, right? And then, like, here's my thread on the Force of Negation situation, and in this thread, I know I posted a deck list, so let's see if we can find it. Here it is. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. Let's open up this deck list. So in this deck list, this is Stephen Menendian. He's a longtime Vintage player, longtime Eternal player, so definitely knows what cards are powerful in those formats and what cards are not. This person, Stephen, has written a whole book on Gush and when to use Gush in Vintage. So to say that he thinks about Vintage quite a bit is an understatement. So, you look at something like, in this deck list, we have, from the new set, we have 4 Force of Negation and 4 Force of Will. So just a full 8-pack. And then another showing here for the Force of Vigor, to blow up things like ley lines and whatnot. And so it looking like those two cards are cards that, man, they're already seen play in Vintage. And if you look, look at his commentary here, Force of Vigor and Force of Negation are insane in Vintage in general, in this deck in particular. So he's talking about this stuff here. Sorry I missed whoever followed, but I appreciate the follow. Thank you. So he's already talking about these cards being insane in Vintage. So we know, okay, that if they're powerful enough for Vintage, they're probably powerful enough for Legacy and maybe Modern. So let's keep looking. So these two cards, the other thing I like about these cards, I'm not going to go into like a super deep rant here, but the other two things I like about these cards is they're great in EDH and in Oathbreaker. Now, Oathbreaker is not popular enough to move the needle. So for this conversation, Oathbreaker's not in the conversation because it's not popular enough to move the needle. We can't really think about that. As much as I like the format, people don't buy singles based on Oathbreaker, so we can't really talk about that. But at least in EDH, both of these cards, Force of Vigor, Force of Negation, are both interesting in that format. They're both like Force of Negation is the budget Force of Will, and so we'll see a lot of EDH players picking it up for that reason. Force of Vigor, blowing up 2 artifacts or enchantments for 4 mana is good value. So, I mean, even just casting it normally and then having the ability to tap out and still have it, great card. So let's look for some other cards that are making a splash. See if we could find some other stuff here. I like looking around on Twitter. This is one of the ways that I get information. Adolphus, yeah, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. I was able to, since you commented, I was able to give you a shout out there. So let's look around. I like to go to latest here. And, we're going to see some sealed decks and stuff like that. We don't really care about that. I mean, as good as the cards are in sealed, that doesn't sell singles. So what we're looking for is deck lists. We're looking for results. MTGO screenshots like this will tell us things. These are mostly just pools and sealed pools and stuff like that. This is another one. We'll show this one. I of course, I'm looking for this stuff throughout the day, so that's why I'm posting it. That's why you see me there on my Twitter account posting it. So here we see Force of Negation, a 4 of in this deck, 2 in the main, 2 in the sideboard, and then 2 Prismatic Vista, which is a really, I'm going to put that one down too. 2 Prismatic Vista, which is super interesting to me. I really undervalued this card. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's like a $5 card. But again, the thing I failed to realize that I was so vocal about Force of Negation about is that the Prismatic Vista is in the same way that Force of Negation is the budget Force of Will, Prismatic Vista is the budget fetch land. And so EDH players are all going to want this Prismatic Vista because it's cheaper than most of the fetch lands. And so even in Modern here, where we have Scalding Tarns, right next to Scalding Tarn, we have some Prismatic Vistas. So, good enough to see play in this Modern list. I think we need to put it down on the list of cards that might have some legs and might be undervalued right now. Now, of course, some of these things will not pan out. So let's keep looking. What else do we got? It's not all going to be this, by the way. I'm going to look at also the MTGO results to see if there's anything in there. I doubt it because it's so early, but there might be some stuff in the MTGO results. Foils that are being opened. I mean, we're still in the weekend, so looking for people talking about cards that I respect. Oh, there was another one with Conley. Let's look at Conley's deck list. Conley made a sweet deck list as well. We'll search for that. Conley Woods here. And here we've got this deck list with the Weather the Storm. Now, Weather the Storm is a common, so, you know, not really going to open boxes based on a common. But let's take a look. We've got, okay, here's an important situation here. This is important to note, okay. If we look at the first iteration of this deck list, there were 4. Were there 4 Mox Tantaline? No. I thought there were 4. Was there any version that had 4? It does not appear that there was. Okay, I was mistaken. I thought there was 4 of these Mox Tantalite, and I thought what happened was that he took it out, you know, that he went down to 1. But that's not the case. There was only 1. So let's take a look here. Anything else interesting besides the Weather Storm and the Mox Tantalite? Now, Mox Tantalite I'm not going to put on the list yet until I see some more results with that. A one of in this deck list is not enough for me to like get excited about it. See what we got going on here. What other kind of decks he's brewing up. This looks to have no cards from the new set. So, okay. So let's move on. Let's look at the MTGO deck list. I don't know. I can see first, but I think it's Euthanac in there. Yeah, you're not first, man. Adolphus was first. Adolphus was first. Okay, this is a print-to-demand set. I only ask because I feel that some of the rare stuff might be high for the time being. Okay, let me talk about that for a second, because a lot of times when that's just the laundry draining. A lot of times when people talk about this set, and I talk about cards going up and whatnot, people say, "Hey, this is print to demand." You know, it's a print to demand set, and that's a lot of what people are talking about. And what I want to say about that is, it's true that it's print to demand, but there has to be demand, right? Like, if there's no demand, then it's not going to be printed again. You know, just because it's print to demand doesn't mean it's infinite. It doesn't mean that it's going to be printed. It doesn't even mean that we're going to get a second printing. You know, demand has to be there to get the second printing, okay? And so, like, right now, we're looking at, should we open more of these boxes? That's a bad sign, right? As a store, we're thinking, should we open some boxes? Yeah, printed to distributor LGS demand. But LGS and distributor demand are... And thank you for the follow, whoever that was. I just turned on the alert, so we'll be able to see it from now on. LGS and distributor demand is based on consumer demand, because like if we're selling the set, then there's demand, right? If we're stuck with a bunch of boxes and trying to figure out should we open them, it looks so poor that maybe we don't want to open them, then we probably don't want to order more from a distributor, right? Because it's like these things are $200 a pop, you know. Core Set 2020 is coming out. Like, spoilers are probably going to start for that like next week or something, or 2 weeks from now, you know. So like the week after this set drops, we're going to already start having spoilers for 2020. I mean, the set comes out next month, like 1 month from today, or like less than a month from today. And so the question is the consumer experiencing some wallet fatigue right now? Are they going to want to go in on this $200 box set? Are they going to be interested in instead in the cheaper Core Set 2020? We have a lot of different things happening here. So yeah, it's print to demand, but there has to be demand. Okay, and I'm not convinced that we're going to have a second printing. I'm not saying there's no way we're going to have a second printing, but I'm not convinced, man. I have not been seeing like the sales numbers doing well. And the thing is that, if we only get one printing, then print to demand doesn't mean anything. It just means that we got one printing, and everybody who's like leaning on that, there's so much of a safety, like warm and fuzzy, put your head on a pillow feeling, hey, it's print to demand, that people might sleep on the set, and maybe there's going to be one printing. And if that's the case, then all these things are going to get crazy. All these cards are going to go nuts. And maybe at that point, then we'll get another printing at that point, maybe. But by that point, the prices will be high already, and like we would have already realized any profit that was out there, or So, just because it's print demand, it doesn't mean that this stuff's not worth thinking about, and it doesn't mean that some of these cards are not going to go up in price. That doesn't mean that, in my opinion. Does that make sense, or are you feeling like boom, full of hot air? Let me know. I'm going to keep looking through this. This is something that came out yesterday. I don't know if it's legal. I don't know if the set's legal in right now. So let's just look through some of these deck lists real quick. See if the set is legal. I don't think the set's legal. I'm not seeing anything from the set, not even the sideboard. Typically new sets will affect the sideboards first. So you'll see them in the side. Oh man, this is an interesting deck list though. Look at this Ilharg deck list. This is interesting. This is a legacy deck list. Nuts, man. I love the Sandstone Needle. Probably foils of those are infinite right now. Okay, yeah, I don't think we're gonna see anything here. Yeah, and I don't think we're going to see anything in the modern set here. Yeah, not legal yet. All right. So we looked there. We looked at Twitter. I don't think we're not getting many results from Twitter. Let's put Modern Horizons in Twitter and see if we get any results. Trying to get as much information as possible. There's these Ilharg decks, not Ilharg, but these dredge decks that I want to look at. Tony Sloan, welcome. Good evening to you as well. There's some decks that I want to look at. Let me find the name of that creature, and we're going to look for the decks that are made of that creature because I think that'll be interesting. Then we'll take a look at what's selling on TCG Player. That will be right here. Hogak. Let's look for the Hogak deck. Alright, let's look at this. What's this? We'll watch this.
Okay, we're playing the new hot deck, Hogak Vine. You get to cast Hogak turn 2, apparently, and you can mill your deck with Altered Dimension, sacking him, and recasting
So, Altered Dimension is live in this deck.
I don't know, there's a lot of weird interactions I'm not sure about. Sideboard, you got Forest Mares to deal with ley lines.
I'm gonna mute that. Let's see what we got going on here. I just want to see how it's played. I want to think about it for a second. When I'm evaluating sets and thinking about, is this set worth it? This kind of stuff. I want to get a feel for the cards. I'm not playing the set in Modern, so I just want to know, what does it look like? I'm gonna catch up with chat while this guy's playing through here, and we'll just see what happens here. Let's see. I believe my LGS is opening 150% of the number of boxes they had on pre-order. If they advertise 50 boxes for pre-order sale, they're opening 75 themselves. So it just depends on how much pre-selling your LGS is doing. Like if they're doing it on eBay and they're doing it on TCG Player, it just depends, So there's no one size fits all for pre-selling singles. Let's see. If the sales numbers aren't doing well, do you think it has a lot to do with it being early summer, the same vein as Battle Bond and Conspiracy? Yeah, definitely. The summer is sometimes slow because it's often slow because people are doing other things. They're spending their money in other ways, their time in other ways. And so, yeah, the summer could be attributing to that. So it looks like they dropped a Stitcher supplier here, milled themselves a little bit. And I think the Stitcher suppliers are going to help with the Convoke of the Hogak, because the way you cast the Hogak is Convoke and Delve. So this is an interesting situation here. Let's keep an eye on what's happening here. This is turn 2, so I don't know. So if they like mill a if they hit something with the Stitcher supplier, like a Narcomoeba or like the zombie that comes back, the 3/3, then they can really go off with the altar. So I'm interested to see what happens here. All right, let's catch up with the chat. Yeah, also like War of the Spark sold very well. And so like a lot of people went all in on War of the Spark, you know? Frat Bro, what's up? Yo Medina, I know you've been trying Sahelian Oath. I built her with Divergent Transformations and win consistently on turns 3 to 5. The format is pretty broken. Do you think it sticks? Do I think Oathbreaker as a format sticks? That's a hard question. I want it to. I really like the format. I like the format. What it has going for it is it uses planeswalkers, which everybody likes. You know. B, the games are fast. C, nobody is sad about Armageddon. You know, people can Armageddon in that format without people being sad. You know, I think there's a lot of people who say like, hey, this format's broken, but there's a lot of play in the format. Like there's a lot of responses, a lot of ways you can play around things. One of the key things is if your Planeswalker dies, like with the Saheeli deck, then, you know, if your Planeswalker dies soon enough, then it doesn't, like, you lose your momentum. And so people need to pack more Planeswalker hate in that format, as funny as it sounds. I just don't see people doing it, you know? I don't know. But I think that once people start to get comfortable, they learn what decks beat them, they'll metagame against them, and this kind of thing. I'm not super impressed with this Hogak deck so far. I'm not seeing, like, any explosive starts or anything like that. We're going to move on once I get done reading the chat. All right, let's see. Sneak attack deck with straight fire. Why is everyone running drafts for $30 and 55 sealed when packs are 7 apiece? I think that things are just catching up, you know. I don't know if packs were supposed to be 7 apiece, but it seems like a lot of the stores are getting stuck with product. And so now packs are dropping, you know, packs are dropping down to 7. That's what my feeling is. Hey, what's up, Rob Meadows? How are things at Rob, did you go to if this is Rob Meadows I'm thinking about. Did you go to GameSwap? How was the turnout over there? Did you feel like the Modern Horizon set was selling well? I wanted Euthanac. You said Oathbreaker is ridiculous. You know, Yawgmoth's Will is not banned. I want to know, man. Have you played the format? Anybody who's talking smack about Oathbreaker and saying it's broken, I want to know if you played the format and how many 4-man pods you've played in the format before you say that. That's what I want to know. Because like watching goldfishes or like goldfish in your own deck or theory crafting, it's not the same as playing in a 4-man pod, especially if the pod is equally matched, you know. So let me say that. I think Oathbreaker is merely a great example to the keg to make Planeswalker legal in Commander, then Oath might end quickly. Okay, yeah, if Planeswalkers become legal in Commander, then Oathbreaker probably dies, but I don't think Planeswalkers are becoming legal. I think that the keg and the Rules Committee have ruled on it during War of the Spark, saying not going to happen. So if you want to play Planeswalkers that way, Oathbreaker is the way to go for now. And I think the format gets more depth and interesting as more Planeswalkers are printed. All right, yeah, you've only watched it. Okay, yeah, that's fair. You know, see, that's the thing. If the The guy who decided to bring Teferi's protection to the spell won every game. Well, the thing is I don't know if you guys were prepared for that. There was a guy who was playing Teferi's protection against me in a pod, and I beat him. So, Teferi's protection is not unbeatable. I'm not saying my anecdotal evidence is like, fully, whatever, but it's just, I'm just saying there's an example of someone who it's not unbeatable. 15 games and 4 players plot playing Saheeli Divergent. I need to look at what Divergent is. I don't know what Divergent is. I don't know what that card is. Yeah, Tony says that his LGS was running 40 for seal, 40 for drafts and 60 for sealed. It's just expensive, man. Not a lot of people are going to show up for that, All right, I'm not super impressed with the Hogak deck. Let's see if we can find a list or something, another list. Kind of get this figured out. Let's just look at it. This is like a typical dredge deck with the Hogak. Shenanigans, great card. Ultra Dementia. Okay. Let's start looking at some pricing. What I want to do here is I want to look at not the pricing but the best selling. So let's see what cards are selling best from the set. What's up, MTG Critic? Welcome to the show. So yeah, he says Hogak is very real. Yes, I believe the deck is real. I'm just saying there's not a lot to the deck that's new and interesting. It's a dredge deck with 4 Hogak and 4 Ultra Dementia. I guess the difference, the innovation also is going back to Bridge from Below, which dredge decks were not running in Modern. So we also have the 4 bridges, in this version at least. Again, we see the 4 Force of Vigor, which seems to be like a staple sideboard in Dredge now. We have that on our spreadsheet to look at for the price. Oh man, the auto mod is kicking in here. Not a dredge deck. It's a bridge deck. Well, back in my day, MTG Critic, dredge decks were bridge decks. All right? This deck uses what's called the dredge mechanic. You'll notice from this card like Stinkweed Imp here that has dredge 5. So in my book, a Golgari Thug is another dredge card. That, Life from the Loam, another example of a dredge card. Because of all these dredge cards, I will call it a dredge deck, my friend, with Bridge from Below in it. That's okay, Tony. It's fine. Let's take a look at the best-selling cards. You could expect that these snow-covered lands are going to be the best-selling, just because, first of all, they were like $3 or $4 before they got reprinted. Now they're super cheap, and everybody wants to, fill up their commander decks and this kind of stuff with them. So, right here, the top 5 cards best-selling for the set. These snow-covered lands. Also, they're just criminally cheap right now. Oh, these are the top 5 just best-selling in TCG. Let's see if we can get to Modern Horizons. Check out the Peter list. Okay, we'll check out that one. We will check it out, my friend. All right, so here's the best-selling stuff. Right, yeah, best-selling stuff from Modern Horizons. We have the Snowlands up top, and then Ultra Dementia. All right, let's put this one on our spreadsheet. I think this is one that we could see a. Let me get a little more perspective here. How many times is Ultra Dementia printed? I think it was 3 times. Whoops. Altar of Dementia is, we've got 1 in Modern Horizons, 1 in Conspiracy, 1 in Tempest, yes. Ooh, the Tempest one, look at that. Look what's going on here. Look what's going on here. We've been buying all week. Hey, do you want to jump in the chat? Do you want to jump in the chat, MTG Critic? We have MTG Critic. He's in the chat right now, but MTG Critic is a well-known Magic financier. I would say probably the most well-known right now. So really honored to have him in the chat. But I don't know. Do you want to jump on Discord and add some of your commentary here? I'd love to have that. I don't know if you have time or if you're busy or whatever, but you're always welcome to do that. If you want to jump in Discord and we can connect you, I would love to do that. So looks like Tempest Altars, very very no supply. Two on two here. A lot of pressure. 65 prices. Yeah. Yeah. That's gonna probably. It'll probably go up. Let's put this on the list here. He laughs. He may be fast to finance. Yeah, he does just so you guys know, MTG Critic does a finance podcast called MTG Fast Finance. It's so fast and so financial. All right, so we put this on there. What else is selling well? Let's take a look. Scale Up, just an uncommon, popular for like Infect and stuff like that. This is one of the hot seller uncommons. Interesting is that Blink card. Ice Fang Kotol. I want to read this card. I know it's supposed to be like a Baleful Strix, right? Okay, so Flash Flying. When it enters the battlefield, you draw a card, and it has Death Touch as long as you control at least 3 other snow permanents. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's no Baleful Strix. And Baleful Strix has... it's an artifact, first of all, which is interesting. I'm just looking at the chat. Very much finance, but due to the amount of content, it's not fast. Fast finance is not fast. Not as advertised. I'm not sure I'm sold on this card. Let me know in the chat. What does it? What plays this card? Besides my EDH Snake Tribal deck. Okay, so we're looking at it has Flash. I know, don't be thrown off by the Flash, All right, so we got Generous Gift, another uncommon. We should probably cut out the uncommons maybe because we're just seeing a lot of these uncommons. Tribute Mage, great EDH card, great for fetching, Thopter Foundry, Sword, and other things in EDH. Thopter Foundry Sword's good in Modern. You can fetch that there. So, Oath Collector or Collector Oath. Yeah, like a lot of these I'm not feeling are going to hold like a really great price. I mean, I know this is like a little bit of a hate card. Activated abilities on artifacts can't be activated. It also pairs with, the card that pairs with Karn. Now I'm forgetting it. Microsynth Lattice. But also just a good hate card in certain scenarios. But right now, $3, I don't know. Like, I'm not seeing like a lot of lasting things, So the idea is this: hey, if we open a bunch of boxes, what stuff are we going to blow out, and what stuff are we going to hold? And if the stuff we're going to hold and price accordingly, when I say hold, we're not going to hide it in a box. We're just going to price it because, like, here's a good example. So if we look at Force of Negation, I'll keep coming back to this because I think it's a good example. Actually, this thing is moving upward pretty... this thing's moving upward pretty quickly. So earlier I did a thread on this, and the thread, it was $20 when I did the thread. So now it's $24. So I think this is going to keep appreciating. This is crazy. Okay, so... But here's an example, right? So $24 here, and then if you look at this thing on Star City Games, now I know some people say, well, Star City Games is the most overpriced, or whatever. I didn't say that. I'm just saying some people would say that. Sorry, Pete. What what you look at here is $34 here. You know, so there's a huge gap right there, right? Now, if you look at that, let's look at that green guy, the oaf, right? Collector oaf. Let's see how big the gap is there. Did I pass it? Look at $3.99. So it's like $3.99 versus $3.50 on Star City. So like not a lot of hope in this card here, you know, from Star City. Not a lot of faith, right? But in a card like, you know, Force of Negation, what about Force of Vigor? That's another card that's on our list that we think, hey, this might have legs. Let's see. Look at this. Force of Vigor is $6.99 on Star City. And then if you look here, it's $3.26 or $4.26 if you factor in shipping, $4. So it's $3 more on Star City. So a lot more faith in the Force of Vigor than in something like the Collector Oath. You know, that's a good example. Let's catch up with chat, and then we'll keep looking at these numbers, and we'll start to build our list. So far on our list, what we have is Force of Negation, Force of Vigor, Prismatic Vista, and Altar of Dementia. These are all cards that I think if we were to open boxes, I would price them at the highest price possible, and I would let the market come to meet them. Okay, if this list gets big enough, then that means we should open the boxes. If the list stays small, then, you know, we really have to look at how much meat is on the bone of that coming up to meet it in the market, you know. And if there's probably not enough meat if the list is small. Okay. Let's go back. Let's go back again to the chat. MTG Critic has a lot to say. Dude, I told you, man. Come on Discord so you could say it in the so you could say it so all that are watching can hear. They don't have to read it in here. All right. So Ultra Foils 6 months out will be crazy. Okay, that's what MTG Critic says. Little fast finance tip for y'all. So, Ray Salim says, not Baleful Strix. Take back those words. I told you, man. I told you it wasn't a Baleful Strix. I said not a Baleful Strix. Nick Fit. It replaces Strix and Nick Fit, tightening the mana base. You know what? I'm going to ask my friend Joe Dyer about that because he's a Nick Fit expert. We'll see what he says. I'm not sure that it does replace it, but we'll see. Goblin Engineer is still the most undervalued rare. Goblin Engineer is on my list of top 5 Oathbreaker cards. So, Goblin Engineer, let's just read that so that we can all be on the same page. I like the card. I like it a lot. Where are you at, Goblin Engineer? It's probably where the G's are at. Here it is, right here. So it's a 2-mana goblin, and whenever it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an artifact, put it in your graveyard, then shuffle your library. You can pay a red, sacrifice an artifact, and return artifact card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, you know, the artifact you get doesn't have to be 3 or less. You can get any artifact and put it in your graveyard. This is why the card Trash for Treasure spiked. So let's look at let's go to Scryfall here so we can get a nice high-res version of this. Trash for Treasure. So this card right here, it noticed a little bit of spike because, you know, with the Goblin you can throw anything in there and then you can use this to get it back out, kind of like a reverse Tinker a little bit. MTG Critic is talking about a future snow set, so he believes that, you know, MTG Modern Horizons is a setup for the future snow set, where Strix might be a little bit better. I don't know. Could be. All right, let's keep reading. Vigor is not a 4 of. Target foils for... Yeah, I mean, Vigor is a 4 of right now. I mean, Whether it remains that way or not is yet to be seen. But we saw earlier in Stephen Menendian's vintage list that it's a 4 of in the sideboard. We saw on this one here, it's a 4 of in the sideboard of this dredge deck. And so, it is a 4 of. Whether it stays that way or not is another question. One of the good things about running 4 of these in your sideboard is that when you board them in, you'll have more green card density. Okay, because like the thing about these green cards are these, like, anybody who's played like Legacy or formats with Force of Will knows that you need to have a certain density of blue cards to play Force of Will reliably. And so one of the things is that, bringing in 4 Force of Vigor gives you kind of a buffer with that to have extra green cards in case you need to remove a Force of Vigor to cast a Force of Vigor. Whereas, like, if you just run like 2 of or 1 of, it takes that green card count down. So, I agree with like the 4 of here. I don't know if it'll stay that way, but I understand it, and I think, I think it's fine. Okay, let's keep going. Tony Sloan. Joe Dyer's a nothing expert? Whoo! Wow. Dude, I think I gotta block you, man. I think I gotta block you for that. People are undervaluing Crypt Rats, personally. That's a good idea. One thing about the Crypt Rats is the foil Crypt Rats is an interesting thing. I need 4 foil Vistas. So if Racelinum needs foil Vistas, it's good that the Vista is on our list. Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep looking at things. Force of Negation going up in price. Ooh, we got a follow. Enemy Zero, thank you for the follow. I know you from way back. If Vigor is a 4 of in Modern, then it's way underpriced. I totally agree, man. That's why it's on our list. Right now on our list, we have Force of Negation, Force of Vigor, Prismatic Vista, and Altar of Dementia. Those are the cards on our list that I believe that the market will raise to beat the highest price. And we got to keep going. Let's keep looking. Let's keep digging, everybody. This is kind of boring for some people, but this is the kind of thing that I like doing to get myself acquainted with the set, figure it out, what cards are good, what cards are not. And we do this early so that we can take this early knowledge and build on it. As we see the iterations, as we see the metagame form, as we see the opinion sway, this kind of stuff, then we know what's going on. I'm gonna remove the common uncommons, and I'm just gonna select the rares and the mythics for this search. And then I'm gonna look at best selling, and we're just gonna go from there because that'll help me get a better picture. And I think we're just kind of I'm not gonna worry about the common uncommons for opening boxes, even though there might be some value there. Let's see. So we already looked at these. I'm surprised that the Plague Engineer is selling so many. It's rated higher than Force of Negation, and that's questionable to me. I think people are trying to hate out humans decks and stuff like that. It's a great engineered plague. It's on legs. It also blocks, which is great. So, I don't know. I like it, but I'm not super convinced. Also, if you put it in play and you name this, this skeleton here, they can't get you, right? Because they put the skeleton in play and it's -1/-1. Dies instantly. Okay, so this was $10 when it came out. It is no longer $10 and will probably continue to go down. But still selling higher than Prismatic Vista. I'm not sold on the Cabal Therapist. I would not put that on my list. Plague Engineer is great and super cheap, Racelinum says, especially with Unearth now. It's fine. It's fine. Archmage's Charm, pretty low on the list here. A lot of people are about this here. I'm not, by the way, I'm not going to put, more than $5 in an Archmage's Charm. I'm not a believer at that. $5 is fine, but I don't think it's going to go higher than $5. That's a lot. A lot of people like the Kaya's Guile. I'm still not sold. Still can't convince me on that one. I think Giver Runes is appropriate at $5. I'm not super. I don't know. I don't see it. Don't see it being too much more than that. Goblin Engineer, we talked about that. That's a $5 card right now. I got to think about this because MTG Critic says it is the most underpriced rare in the set. Like I said, I like it. I like it for Oathbreaker, but I don't feel that Oathbreaker moves the needle. And I don't know. Like if you let's look at what is it? Goblin. What's the other one? What's the goblin that puts something in play from your It's kind of like what this is. It's a fixed version of this. I'm gonna find it. I will find it. Let's clear out this thing here, and we'll put Goblin Artifact. I'm looking at it somewhere else, so you're not going to see it. You're not going to see what I see here. Goblin Welder. That's what it's called. Goblin Welder. How about I put an L right there instead of Goblin Welder? We'll do Goblin Welder. Goblin Welder is $1. I know it doesn't tutor. But it is much more effective at swapping things out. Let's see what the chat has to say. Got a pre-release Islet, which is the red-blue land. It's pretty nice. Euthanax says, you so don't believe in it that you gave yours away yesterday. I did give it away. I gave the Mother of Runes. I'm sorry, Giver of Runes. I gave it away because, I'm like, $5, that's good. I'm giving away a $5 bill. I'm not giving away more. So at base cost, double on this set. Engineer gives and Givers to $10, very likely within 18 months. Again, MTG Critic with some fast finance for you. I don't know what drives them. That's the question. So EDH support for the Goblin I can get behind. I don't know about EDH support for the Giver. I mean, people will put it in EDH decks, but white is notoriously the worst color in EDH. So, I mean, you got something like, I don't know. What's the new white enchantment that spits out treasures? Smothering Tithe, which is, Smothering Tithe is like goes in every white deck, and that's like $12 to $15. And Giver of Runes is not anywhere near the power level of a Smothering Tithe in EDH. So EDH demand alone won't drive that. I think it has to be like a modern demand that will get it there if it gets there, in my opinion. Wilder doesn't tutor. Look at chat. Hey man, I'm trying to balance things, Raysalim. I was trying to look at numbers and look at chat. Stoneforge Mystic. Stoneforge Mystic is different. It's a different animal, man. It's a different animal. It's not, because when you say things like Stoneforge Mystic, it gets these certain emotions going because everyone knows how good Stoneforge Mystic is. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep moving on. Oh, you were talking about the blue charm? All right. Hey, Critic, MTG Critic, you got to get into the Discord, man. Get in the Discord if you want to talk. I can't answer all of your side stuff, bro. Boom. There's a little chat feature in there. Jump in there, man. Giver might give Soul Sisters a boost. People didn't like my Giver call, man. Everybody thinks that Giver's going to be worth more money. I don't know. Planebound Accomplice. Let's talk about this. $1.68. No pressure. I'm just saying, man. He's got input on everything, so why not come on in? Let's talk about it. Let's have a discussion. Stoneforge Mystic isn't even that good in Modern. I don't know about that. Oh man. All right. I like this card. At $1.66, let's see what Star City has it at. See if they agree with me. They got a $2.99. Let's see what Card Kingdom has it at. Let's see what Card Kingdom has it at. Oh, all right. I think we just jumped in. I see MTG Critic in here. All right, let's see if we can get this sound on. All right. Unmute. I'm unmuted. So I see you're in here, but I didn't launch Discord till right now. So sorry about that, MTG Critic, but we're live now. So when you gather around the fire, you will be in the chat live. So sorry about that, but you are welcome to join again. All right, so let's check out Planebound Accomplice. 179. So it looks like Card Kingdom is not a believer. Star City is a believer. I like this card. But this is like I like it for the future. I don't really like it right now. Hey, what's up, Manix? Welcome. Razelim, Accomplice is trash, he says. Accomplice is trash. That's funny. My day's going good, Manix. Thank you for asking. I'm trying to figure out the set. I feel like the set. I don't feel like we should open boxes. I don't feel like we should do it. I'm not seeing the value here of cards that I feel like the market's going to come up and meet. Planebound Accomplice, like I said, I don't think it's trash. I think it's I think even for the combo alone, it's cool. Planeswalker combo. I haven't talked about these lands because I'm not really sure about them. I know we'll sell a bunch of them, that's for sure. And I think if we open boxes, we have to sell them because that's one of the staples that holds the value of the box up. So I feel like that we have to do that, you know. Let's see. Yeah, Mirrodin Besieged, that's a good rare, but it's not, again, good for the future. I don't think it's going to be something that's going to like come up to meet, like if we open boxes and we wait 2 months, you know, or put prices up and try to wait for that 2 months for that market to meet it. I don't think that's going to happen with Mirrodin Besieged. You know, we're not going to see like a $10 Mirrodin Besieged, you know. All right, so let's catch up with chat, see how things are going here. Tony Sloan needs to change laundry. Make sure you get that done. Yeah, boxes are expensive. That's the thing, Tony. That's why, you know. Let's see. We need some overpriced one-shot walkers to justify Accomplice. Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think like in the future we'll get walkers where Accomplice is interesting, you know. All right, I see James in the chat here, but I don't know. It says that he's muted. So I don't know what happened there.
Test.
Hello, welcome. Can you guys hear James?
What's up, John?
How's it going, man? Thanks for joining.
Brother.
So,
Sitting over here buying a
it?
bunch of cheap singles in Europe, so
So you're
two
using
heads together.
MTG Card Market to do that, right?
Cardmarket.com, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what are you buying? Can we know, or is that like
Yeah.
classified?
No, not at all. Going after this weekend, as I mentioned earlier in the Twitch chat, is cheap foil snowlands.
How much are you getting those
Sleeping
for
on
right
those.
now?
They're like $10 in Europe. That's got to be wrong.
That is wrong. Yeah, that's nuts. Wow, $10.
We might see them get pressured under 20 heading into this weekend as the bulk of the supply gets opened in a short period of time. But I think that people are sleeping on two things. One, in Europe in particular, they tend to sleep on EDH just in general, and
Right.
their prices on EDH only ever correct when it gets attacked from North America
Mm-hmm.
to respond. And then the other thing is, if there really is a snow set coming, if call time is a thing, land sometime in the next couple of years, then
Uh-huh.
any weakness that we see on the full art snowlands will, in theory, when they become
Laundry's done.
particularly relevant.
So yeah, I agree 100% on the snowlands. I saw the interesting thing is on TCG we were seeing them at $15 stateside, and then like they were eaten up like immediately. So now I think I haven't looked at all of them, but I know the swamp was 40, and that was 15, and I don't know. Let's look at the mountain.
I mean, one of the things is that I'm hearing collation issues are a thing with this set. And I'm not sure if that's going to be limited to wave 1 or not, but it means that some people are pulling 2 foil snowlands out of their cases, and other people are pulling 0. Level of variability and the general rarity of those lands. I mean, if you're assuming you're getting a few of them per box, you're wrong.
Yeah, no,
People would
it's
think
like one every 2
they're pretty-
boxes or something, right?
So, and I don't think we can compare them to what has happened with the other foil basics or the full art basics, because we saw so many of those. They're kind of commoditized. But on the snow front, this might be the only ones we get for 5 years, and it's the only ones we've ever had.
Right, I agree.
The signals we're getting on this set is that it's this concept of it being print to demand is obviously just way off base. It's gonna print to infinity. It means to demand. And what we're hearing so far is that there is a moderate amount of demand. It was pre-selling very well, and revealed there has been this narrative of it's EDH Masters. It's not really for Modern. I think that's quite. But if that's the dominant narrative, if that's what people are thinking and feeling, then it will influence how they buy. And the other thing is, this is a summer set, and we're heading into the summer now, and this is the natural lull for MTG Finance, and the natural lull for Magic in general. And we've got core set previews coming up in 2 weeks. And then right after that, we've got the Commander decks. And then right after that, we've got the Secret Fall set we don't know the name of yet.
Right.
That suggests to me that even if there are future waves that last a year for Horizons, they're going to be pretty shallow. So we're looking at this set over at MTG Price as though it's going to play out pretty similarly to Eternal Masters. It felt like there was a ton of it on the market for about 6 months, and then it came out early summer as well, and then at Christmas there was a wave that they threw out into the market to try to get some more money, and people were like, they ruined our specs and my cards are plunging. And then 8 weeks later they realized that wave actually wasn't that deep.
Yeah, it's kind of like what's happening with the Japanese wave, right? So like the Japanese stuff is coming. Isn't here yet, but it actually is allocated. It is allocated, and it's not as deep as I thought it was going to be, and it's just kind of like a nod, Here, you guys couldn't get some. Here's a little bit, and so
and what people need to understand, need to wrap their heads around on the go forward, is that anytime something is print to demand, instead think about what is on the product release schedule. because what really matters is how many hype cycles are going to take place between when that set starts being in print and when it goes out of print.
Right. And
sets
I don't think you were
that they
here.
want people to be.
Whoops, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just to finish the thought, if there are a lot of sets that come out, and as they've been doing, they're trying to jam the schedule as packed as they can get it to pry open the wallet kind of on a constant rotational basis. Then, it's like as Core's, preview season starts, that pulls money away from War, it pulls money away from Horizons, and then we get onto the Commander decks, and then we get the fall set. And each of those things means that whatever the declining curve of interest is, low and stays real low. So the dominant factor, if they were to let this set breathe, say the set came out in March instead of June, 4 months, and there was nothing else released, then it would be a different story, because people would have, and if the draft format was good, right, during that period, then people might shift away from whatever the standard draft was at the time into a good draft environment with this set, especially if it was cheaper, and not crazy expensive to draft. Argument that there was going to be a flood of supply, and that you wouldn't, you would normally say, well, hold off for a few months until we're at peak supply. But I actually think peak supply for this set might be less than 4 weeks from now.
Yeah, I tend to agree, and that's why in the beginning, I don't think you were here, but I said the exact same thing about print to demand, because someone was saying, this is print to demand, so it's going to be like, there's going to be infinite, and that's not the case. And you're saying, yeah, maybe people will draft it and this kind of thing. Dude, drafts are expensive, and I just don't see people opening the wallet for the drafts, and definitely not for sealed, because sealed was really expensive. I don't see the draft season lasting that long. I think I think a lot of LGSs are going to open and sell singles, is what I think, because I think they're stuck with a lot of product. But go ahead.
I was to guess, I would say that 2 weeks out from now, we will already have hit 60 to 70% of all of the revenue that will ever be collected from primary sales on Modern Horizons.
At what point?
2 weeks out.
I can get behind that. Yeah.
I think that people were very excited during the preview season, and a lot of product got ordered. People were ordering cases at a time in the MTG price forums. And then at a certain point, when we got pretty deep into the previews and we realized kind of what the consistency of the set was about, we started to refocus on singles. And then we started, it's not available to everybody, but we started focusing on Russian cases.
Right.
Because we sourced Russian cases at about the same price, like within $10 or $20 a box as English. And those are going to be absolutely insane, because if you pull a foil Russian Snowland, $30 to $50 card just right there.
Right.
But what's your foil Russian Force of Negation going to be worth in 5 years?
I think the Russian stuff, not everyone can play in that space, right? Because you have to have an out in the end, right?
I think the play with Russian is more limited by the fact that there are no cheap boxes. Now, because one of the things is that even if you believe the English product is printed demand, that is not the case with every other language. This set's very strange because it's printed in all the languages, because they knew that if they didn't, then they would basically cut off entire countries from having access to necessary modern cards, which obviously would be a disaster. They're going to print Russian all year long. I would guess that 90% of the Russian product has already been printed, whereas it might only be 55 or 60% of the English product, and there'll be additional waves in English. But you're not going to see, first of all, as you know, the distributors don't really stock the foreign product much at all.
Right.
Anymore. 4 years ago, you had the opportunity as a vendor to just bring in a number of cases of English you brought in. You could bring in foreign. You could bring in Japanese, German, Korean, Russian, and lots of vendors were. Did a policy shift, as you know.
Yeah.
And, since then, Russian's been pretty hard to come by. Like Russian war boxes, even though the Japanese boxes are a big deal, have been going for 130, 140 for Russian, and the Russians on Facebook wanted 300 plus for the Horizons.
Well, the thing is, I think that with the Russian stuff, it is a lot of times it's foil or bust, because in the end, it's hard to move Russian singles of just the plain cards, right? Yeah, if you hit a foil, you knock it out of the park. You hit a foil Urza, foil Snowlands, foil Yawgmoth, even some of the fringy, EDH stuff, foil, I don't know, first sliver. I don't know, demand on that is probably a little bit lower. It seems like Russian and, Japanese stuff a lot of times like kind of goes toward like the more spiky, like blue players and whatnot,
I mean, I think what exacerbates that even further is you have a set that has a lot of EDH, probably roughly split. How many cards are EDH versus Modern focused in the set, despite the set's name?
Yeah.
And EDH players, obviously, and especially in non-foil, don't particularly want to have. It's really tough if you're playing with people in a play group that don't really know the cards that well.
Uh-huh.
But one of the things they got us to go in on the Russian cases is that I think the Canopy lands is probably enough, because I think Russian versions of the Canopy lands are going to hit 50 pretty easily a year.
You think that
Canopy lands
like the basic Russian Canopy lands, like not the foils, right?
30 to 50 for sure, depending on which one we're talking about. And I think that's because this in Modern, I think like of say the top 20 decks in the format, probably 12 of them will be running 2 to 4 copies. Prismatic Vista is in the same boat, and those are all at rare, not at mythic. One of the things that I think is interesting about this set is how much of the Modern playability they put below mythic. A small handful of mythics that look likely to post up in Modern: Urza, Season Pyromancer, maybe Ranger Captain, tier 1.5 or tier 2 creature toolbox deck. But the great cards were pushed to rare, which again makes sense, because if you have a box that costs twice as much, and it's not, despite what people think, compared to a standard set. Like what I've been hearing is that it's printed at about 75% of the total print run of a standard set.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to print like a $200 box at the same rate
level
as a standard set. But hey, let's catch up with chat before we keep going, because I see some people shouting out. What's up, Chantel? Welcome to the stream. Good to have you here. We're talking about Modern Horizons and the financial implications. I'm trying to figure out if we should be opening boxes or not. And thank you for the follow. Racelinum, am I profiling you with the spiky blue player stuff? I am. It feels like a lot of and this is just an anecdotal thing, a lot of times when I sell like those high-end foils, it oftentimes is blue stuff, or stuff that goes in spiky combo decks. And so like if I see 2 Russian foil something or Japanese foil something, and one is like, just like a tribal card, right? And one is like, Frantic Search. I would much rather have the Frantic Search, or the kind of card like Frantic Search. Obviously, foil Frantic Searches are, especially in the older sets, really coveted. But, I'd rather have that than the tribal card or the beatdown card, because I feel like, and maybe it is me profiling, but I feel like those sell better in my own experience. So
in my experience with Russian foils, and I do sell quite a lot of them, it's really about how memorized the card is and how much of a staple it is, leading to most people knowing what it is on site, especially if it has consistent art. Okay. So for instance, I sell, lately I've been selling a lot of things like foil Russian Paradox Engine.
Yeah.
Because Paradox Engine is just an EDH staple. Everybody kind of knows that art on site at this point, and it doesn't have convoluted text. The more complicated the card is, the more lines of text you need to memorize, and the more nuance in that text, the less likely your table is going to respond to it in a friendly way. Whereas if you drop a Soul Ring on the table in Russian,
then everybody knows.
No problem. It's no problem.
So what do you think? So here's like the thing that I'm working on here. We were building a spreadsheet of cards that I felt like, hey, right now these are underpriced, and I can price them at like Star City price, and then the market will rise to meet them and we'll sell them, right? But I feel like there's no danger of certain cards falling downward, because right now we did the math. If we were to open boxes of Modern Horizons, we're looking at like an 8% loss to open the boxes, sell the singles on TCG Player. Now, if we sell the singles in the store, we're much better, right? There's a little bit of a gain there. But the proposition is, hey, maybe if there's enough cards in here that the market will rise to meet, then we could just price those cards at the appropriate price, and then kind of just put the other prices at where they're at now, expecting that they're going to go down. We just kind of try to chase that money there and then let the market rise up. What I'm seeing is there's really not a lot of those cards that are underpriced where the market's going to rise to meet them. And I'm not talking about like a speculation thing where like, hey, in 2 years, this card's going to be good. I'm talking about like, are we going to see the market rise to meet some of these cards in 2 months? And I feel like Force of Negation, Force of Vigor, Prismatic Vista, and Ultra Dementia are the only cards that I have on my list that I feel like in the next 2 months, the market is going to rise to meet the highest price that we have here right now. The rest of the stuff, I don't see that happening. Do you agree or disagree?
I mean, if we're the kind of the top level point is crack boxes or not, right? And I think that given where sentiment is at now, that cracking boxes has to be done in a hurry leading into this weekend, and you don't want to be super deep on it. You just kind of want to crack to the point where the sales slow down and then stop.
Right, but I think so many people are doing that. You're going to fight the down current, right? Because
and so, if you're a store and you need to have the inventory in the case to sell, that's one thing. If you're in a position where you can choose to not do that and you could instead speculate on singles, then I definitely think singles is the way to go. And that's the approach that most of the MTG price pro traders have been taking. So for instance, we were pretty early on spotting Hogak on lists and on streams, and everybody dived in our Discord between like $2 and $3. Right. And those people are already, those that can know reliably they're going to get their orders on time, are already flipping those at $40 a playset. So, I mean, that's cards haven't even touched hands and people are already doubling and tripling.
Right. And I think that's a good play for a person, right, to look for these undervalued cards. And if you're listening, by the way, and you're looking for undervalued cards, the ones that I just read, the Force of Negation, Force of Vigor, Prismatic Vista, and Ultra Dementia, those are all good ideas to look at. Or if you're trying to play Modern or something like that, and you're like wanting to buy cards before they go up in price, these cards are things that are good things of interest. Also, if you're wondering, should I open a box as a player, what I'll say is that I think it's different for a player to open a box because you're not looking at there's like, when you look at the fees and like the time that it takes for a store to do this, you're looking at like 15 to 20% off the top. So we'll lose 15 to 20% in fees and this kind of stuff. And that's not even counting shipping. Okay. So you look at man hours, you look at all that kind of stuff, so even though it doesn't make sense for us as a store to do it, maybe as a player, it's different because you're going to take those cards and you're not going to have an overhead to sell them or if you sell them on TCG, you will, but if you trade them or do other player-like things instead of store things where you don't have to hire people and stuff like that, it's a different story.
The funny thing with this set, though, is that if sentiment turns against it,
right,
is speed up how fast these specs take off.
Right, and that's the thing I've been saying is like you're saying, hey, when the second wave comes, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there's going to be a second wave and how deep that second wave is going to be because I don't feel like demand is pushing so hard on this set.
I mean, they've promised that it's in play for a year, so I suspect that it's going to be pushed through the distributors. But as I said, I think that it'll be at a much lower volume. Most stores will have access to it through the distributor for most of the year, but they may not want it.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
End up sitting on 10 cases and it taking 6 months to out them.
Right, and that's kind of one of the situations that I'm seeing with LGS is these boxes were expensive, and now there's LGSs with a bunch of the boxes because the pre-release, because Somerset pre-release didn't go that well. It went mediocre, and so now they have a bunch of boxes. And do you think when the second wave comes, they're going to be like, yeah, sign me up for that? Probably not.
There's a couple other factors, right, with these new sets that are coming along. Normally, you wouldn't fear the impact on a master set from Core and Commander, but that both Core and Commander are juiced this year.
Right. Well, the other thing is you have to carry them. As a store, you have to carry them, and you can't, just from a financial perspective, you can't juggle hundreds of boxes for each of these. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right, because you got to turn it over.
You have to turn it over, and that's just that's the machine that's happening in the background, and that's why I feel like the set was kind of like there were some high hopes, players got kind of pumped. But then when it came time to cash the check, when it came time to pay for the box, I seen very little players opening boxes locally, and I seen LGS is getting stuck with boxes, and so now Core's around the corner, and people have to buy their Core shipment, and they have all these Modern Horizon boxes, and so
suggest to me that Horizon boxes could easily test 170, 180 in the next few weeks.
Oh yeah, and I think it's great to buy those at that point because you're basically you're
like you're within $20
of cost.
High end. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think honestly that is the thing that most people are underestimating with this set is what the impact on the relevant singles is out when we know it's out of print are twice the base cost of the boxes was twice normal. People are thinking about a rare should cost X. A rare should cost 2X. Because the box was twice as expensive. So if that rare from out of a standard set, based on its impact across the formats where it's relevant, then you can look at it as a $6 rare pretty safely.
Right. I understand that for sure. And I rate this stuff on that level. When I said Giver of Runes was $5 cards fine. Yeah, I think if it was a standard set, that card would be like $2, $2.50.
Right. And if Giver of Runes and Goblin Engineer don't get there in Modern, like don't show up as a 4 of in a deck within the next few months, then they're going to crater. Like they're going to be sub $3 cards.
Right, and I think Goblin has more like space because Goblin is a tutor, in the end, and I could totally
Goblin
see...
is a combo card, and Giver fits into a fair deck that enough with Giver.
Right, and in the formats where like Giver is more. Like let's say, in Modern, Giver's the only option, right? And so I could see it going in a deck in Modern, maybe, like Soul Sisters, like someone said, but not necessarily in Humans, they would probably go for that Mariner in Humans, the one that protects for one, but
the tier 2 deck that can run Giver is Eldrazi Taxes, because protecting your Thought.Seer and your Reality Smasher with Giver is hot.
Okay, I can get behind that.
That deck is not on the level of Phoenix and Hogak and Dredge and Tron.
Right.
So this doesn't have the raw power level.
So I agree. And if you go into the older formats, you have Mother of Runes. And so I feel like it's in a funny spot, Now, if, that thing can change, as formats change. Let's catch up with chat. How's chat doing? Chat, I know that, you've been a little bit neglected tonight, but I think you're getting a lot of good information. Would you agree? Would you agree, chat? I want to hear what you have to say about that. Let's catch up with what other people are saying in here, just to see how everybody's doing. Season Pyromancer is great, and hopefully we'll bring back Mardu. I agree. Season Pyromancer is a lot of stats on a small package, so I like that card. Discard enables things. Makes little guys. Seems cool. I like the card. I haven't thought about it enough to know like how much legs it has, but it is a mythic. So really,
the thing to watch with Season Pyromancer is if it becomes a 4 of in mono red Phoenix. Phoenix wants it in the all red version.
Okay.
Then it's not a $10 mythic; it's a $20 plus mythic.
Yeah, I can get behind that. Yeah. Yeah, totally.
That's keeping their eyes on the MTGO 50 lists to see what develops in the next couple weeks is going to be where a lot of the trigger points come.
Yeah, for sure. That's one of the things I like looking at. We were trying to look at them, but I don't think they're on the list yet. They're just we're just seeing old lists right now. So
there is a set from yesterday, but it didn't have a lot of action from Horizons.
So was it Modern or was it the Legacy one?
It was the Modern one from the 7th, I believe.
Okay, that's what we looked at, but I didn't see hardly any action. Was there stuff in here? Let's see.
If I noticed any, it was pretty minor.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't notice any, but I could have missed it because I started to like just kind of glaze over. But yeah, we'll have to take a deeper look at that to see if there's any. Usually, it starts out in the sideboard, typically, unless it's forming a new archetype. A lot of times you'll see these cards in the sideboard, and then and then into the main, and then full on.
The legacy lists from today were ridiculous. So many wore the Spark Planeswalkers. It was completely crazy.
Yeah, Narset is getting hot.
Narset and Great Creator are just utter, probably the biggest multi-format staples we've seen 18 months.
Yeah. Narset is something else for sure. And
I can't think of anything since Fatal Push that is even in that range.
Yeah. Yeah, and even like Narset is pushing through Fatal Push, because Fatal Push didn't see much play in Commander. And Narset is huge in Commander, you know?
In the set.
And also an Oathbreaker.
She makes no sense to me because there's at least 5 spells that are utterly broken with her.
Yeah, it's I don't know if she's going to get banned in Oathbreaker. She might. They have a 90-day to play policy. So
I noticed a funny card for Narset that almost works. Trade Secrets. It's the one where you draw.
Right.
They draw 2 cards and you draw 4.
Yeah.
But they get to keep it going as long as they want, so they can just deck you.
Yeah, exactly. There's another one called Wheel and Deal, which is you let as many players like basically wheel their hand or something like that.
And she shuts it all off.
Yeah, she shuts it down. What else did the chat have to say? Let's see. There were only 9 of us for a midnight release event. And okay, so yeah, so it's poor showing. That's what I feel like that happened a lot in different LGSs.
One of the things here is that if people don't believe that, like it's not part of the flow that typically surrounds Standard.
Uh-huh.
As with most supplemental sets that they've tried to build draft environments around, your battle bonds, your conspiracies, they tend to be hot for a couple weeks and then just fade. And that's why they've been doled out in the summer, because that's the part where they're expecting to get a very short hype cycle built up around something and then move on.
Right, kind of smash and grab, get the money and go. And I think this set is awesome. By the way, I'm talking about, hey, it's not worth it to open boxes for the store, and it feels like poor attendance and mediocre results and stuff like that. But don't let that fool you. I personally think the set is really good, and I think that it's gonna mature well. I think that a lot of cards are going to mature well in the set, and I think that it's because of the casual nature, and there's a few heavy hitters for Modern, like you said, the Horizon Canopy Lands, and looks like Force of Negation and some of the other stuff, maybe this Pyromancer guy, and some stuff in Modern we'll see, Hogak and Alter and that kind of stuff. But even beyond that, like, what is that? Morphatron or whatever his name is.
Morphon, yeah, for EDH, that's solid.
For Commander, super solid there. First Sliver I'm almost positive that First Sliver is going to go up in price because it is nuts. This card is bonkers. I saw it in a subpar Sliver deck, and it just crushed the table because of the power level of this card. And so, First Sliver at, I think it's like $30 right now. Yeah, $30. I could totally see, especially if the second wave is not deep or there's no second wave. Like this thing's going to be expensive because this is going to be the de facto Sliver commander for sure.
It's like Urza, Yawgmoth, the First Sliver, Morophon were all very hyped as they were previewed.
Right.
Very high price tags. And so for those, you're looking to wait till your peak supply lull. But you're on the flip side of this tonight where you're looking at the stuff like Hogak that got overlooked. I mean, Daniel Fournier on Fast Finance last week, we talked about Hogak. He said, it doesn't really fit in the normal dredge list, and we moved right along.
Whoops.
We also missed the card completely.
Yeah.
Brushed it off, and they had the guys from one of the other Modern podcasts on as well.
Yeah.
So
they mentioned that
we said
missed
this.
it.
Yeah, I mean, we said this up front. This set is so complex, 40 keywords, that just not going to evaluate the cards correctly up front.
Right.
And that's what's opening up this huge yaw between $40 rares and $2 rares. All sorts of opportunity.
I think the same thing happened with War of the Spark, but the stakes were lower.
I think that War of the Spark is a pushed standard set.
But it's also deep, right? It's also complex.
It's very deep. It's deep down to the uncommon level.
Yeah.
We've said it on cast that if you're the kind of Magic player who's much more player than you are a speculator,
mm-hmm.
and you like to stash some stuff away, but you're not really paying attention to prices on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, then you could do a lot worse than just buying a case of War and sitting on it.
Right. I agree 100%.
War is probably the standard set most likely to top 150 within 3 years since like Cons. With the fetch lands, was in that position relatively quickly. Dominaria, that took off held its price a lot better than most standard sets.
Yeah.
But I think that War trumps Dominaria in terms of
complexity
playability.
and playability across all formats, for sure. And Dominaria was a high bar, too.
And with Narset and there's a lot of Planeswalkers that are being underestimated from War, even though now Narset is obvious, or seems obvious.
Yeah.
There's still like Saheeli.
And I'll say also
Saheeli.
One that I think people are sleeping on is Jace. What is it? Wielder of Mysteries? Is this the one? Let's see. The 4-mana Jace in this set. Yeah.
EDH at minimum. Or how about Dovin Hand of Control was a 4 of in a 5-0 legacy list from that set of Magic Online lists.
Yeah, wait a second. I'm looking at Jace here. Jace is $1. And foils are... I wonder foils. $7? Like, think about Laboratory Maniac. Before it got reprinted, foils were like $8 and it wasn't a Planeswalker. Like, this is insane. Like, this is way undervalued, this card, Jace. But go ahead, you were saying Dovin?
And well, let's finish your point.
Yeah.
And he's the 7th most reported card on EDH Rec from the set.
Yeah, no doubt. This is like an EDH powerhouse. I see this all the time in like competitive decks and stuff like this. This is a great card, and this is a great deal. So if you're going to be playing with Jace, you should buy them right now. And I put, by the way, you guys who are all here, you're listening to me. This is my stream, but also you're listening to James Chilcott. And James is a writer and a podcaster at mtgprice.com. I put that in the chat. So if you want to see more from James, I just want to put that out there for everyone who's here right now. He graciously came on to give us commentary, and I appreciate that.
I think like when we're talking about Horizon's opportunities, one of them is to take a look at War cards while everybody's heads turned the other way.
That's a good point.
Overall, War is the better set. Total. Horizons is a great set. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, it's hard because the Planeswalker make it so deep. Like even this Nissa who shakes the world, I think she's starting to see some more play because of Standard. Like people are discovering her in Standard. But this is a great casual Planeswalker as well. So
I don't usually spec on Standard stuff. It's just can go wrong so easily. But with War, I went in pretty deep, pretty early in Europe and picked up like 150 Chandras at 69 cents, 150 Narsets at like 49 cents, 120 Nissa Who Shakes the World at $1.15 or something. And all of those are double, triple, quadruple. Like the Narsets I'm not even going to sell now. I'm going to wait till the fall.
Yeah, I mean...
Because like CK Buy List is already a triple up.
Yeah. Yeah, Narset's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Such a powerful set.
Yeah. It is.
Bolas' Citadel is showing up in Modern. There was a 5-0 list the other day. Basically like running an eggs variant. And was running the new green card out of Horizons, that's the Storm one that gains you 3 life on Storm.
Yeah, for sure. Conley's experimenting with that as well. The Bolas' Citadel and the new Storm card. Yeah, I mean this set is bonkers. So War of the Spark. I guess for right now, like looking at how War of Spark is playing out, I think it is probably a better set than Modern Horizons. But I think Modern Horizons has some teeth, and I feel like because the hype cycle is like fizzling, and because it's expensive, I feel like there's a lot of opportunity there. But for sure, like War of the Spark is like there's so much in the set that it's just just good stuff, man. Just
As a speculator, there's nothing I would like more than for Horizons to fall flat on its face. Because it won't be because there's not great cards in this set. It will
Right.
be because the narrative degrades.
do you feel like the narrative is degrading?
I think that the concept that it was EDH Masters and didn't just serve up a bunch of Snapcaster mages that were just obviously powerful,
Uh-huh.
very inclusions into known decks really benefits the brewers, right? It's the people that are brilliantly brewing for Modern
Right.
that are going to get out ahead. And if you know that's not you, then you need to be paying attention to those people and following those people and reading their content so that you can get a jump on it. It's not the kind of set where you want to be going, Influence, that's going to be the tier 1 deck in Modern. I'm going to get 600 copies of that today at $1.99. Like this,
Right.
This is the set where you want to take a big step back from your own ego
Uh-huh.
and look for the signals as to what's emergent.
Right.
But, you know, by Vista, Forest of Negation, for EDH, cheap foiled talismans. Talisman of Creativity and the white-black talisman and the white-red talisman. If those foils hit like $3.50 to $4 this weekend, those are all buys because those are a year out. Those would be $10.
Right. You know, in that same vein, you know, if you want to talk about EDH uncommons in the set, the white Beast Within is another foil pick.
Norris Gift, yeah.
Yeah. And then yeah, talismans, and there's some other uncommons that are pretty saucy in here. Let me see if I can find one.
If we're talking about prioritizing the canopy lands, I think Nurturing Peatland is where you want to be. Best overlap in terms of decks that will want it in Modern, and the fact that Gitrog and Windgrace will absolutely want to run it and recurse it.
I like it.
And it's as the red-white one slots right into Burn, just upgrades Burn, but doesn't really have anywhere else to go. The blue-green one fits right into Infect, doesn't really have anywhere else to go in Modern.
Do you run the blue-green one in Boggles as well, or?
Yeah, probably. But I mean, Infect looks like, because Infect also got scale up. I'm to see more of that at top tables than I would Boggles.
I'm super interested also in this. I'm super interested in this this Wrath as well, the Snow Wrath for Commander, and it's like,
I think it's
right. It's good, right? It's like it's basically right now. If you think about Toxic Deluge, Toxic Deluge is let's see how much Toxic Deluge is going for these days. And because these snowlands are plentiful, you know, I can see, so Toxic Deluge is about $25, and I'm still looking here. Dead of Winter is $1.54, and I think you know. Go ahead.
Here's foils when they bottom out.
You bought these foils out, or is that what you said?
I said when the foils bottom out, that's the play. There's going to be a lot of Dead of Winter lying around because it's never. I don't think it's going to be a 4 of in Modern. You're going to see it show up in a bunch of or 2 of. The problem is that there's a bunch of other options, not the least of which is Damnation.
Right.
So some decks may just prefer to have Damnation, even though it costs 1 more. It doesn't. You don't have to lean on the snow permanents, but it really helps build 3-color mana bases and lean heavier on basics. So people thinking the Dead of Winter isn't reliable probably don't understand how the mana bases are going to work for the decks that will run it.
Right.
That being said, it's likely to see a smattering of play in both Modern and EDH. The 2 means that 12-month horizon on foils should be fine.
Yeah, I think that people will, like, Damnation is also another expensive card, you know, and so I think we will see more of the Dead of Winter because the snowlands are so plentiful and cheap right now that, you know, if you replace all your, especially for budget players who are playing a lot of basics, right? You replace all your basics. Also, there were some snowlands in Snow Duels in Cold Snap, which were uncommon, and so you run stuff like that. There's already EDH decks if you look up on EDH Rec. Cold Steel Heart, right? That's a snow permanent, and because it's not only lands, right? Is it permanents? Number of snow permanents you control, right? So like, So
heaven forbid we go to call time and actually get snow duels.
well, that would be nuts. Snow shocks. I would love snow shocks. But yeah, this Dead of Winter is great for budget players, and I think we're going to see more data on EDH Rec for this, because I think a lot more budget players will start to transition over to this, and running things like Cold Steel Heart, the Snowlands and stuff like that, and then that will set the tone, because once the data starts happening in EDH Rec, I think people start to notice cards, and they just start to build like that, and then this starts to become the de facto thing to add in certain decks, and then now it's not as good as Toxic Deluge, but it does a good impersonation, in my opinion.
I expect that if we see foils drop below 5, you're supposed to buy a small handful.
Yeah, I'm going to buy one at 7 because I want one for my Corlash deck.
So there was another card, a Mythic, that you had retweeted somebody on earlier today. That was the Sword of Sinew.
Yeah.
I do have some thoughts on that.
Let's hit it.
Not only was that analysis on point, just basically pointing out that it is statistically likely to do a lot of work in Commander.
Uh-huh.
And look at the price history of Sword of Fire and Ice. 30 plus for a long time, despite seeing a reprint and a Masterpiece reprint.
Uh-huh.
I think it's got about 6,000 decks reported on EDH Rec or something like that. Mythic and not a rare. And you can get copies as low as $8 or $9 in Europe, and I think we'll probably see $10 copies this weekend on TCG.
Man, yeah, if you see $10 swords, you should buy them.
And I think
I don't even think what's the blue-green one? I don't even think that's $10. I think that's $15, and that's the worst.
It's like this. It's not going to be a quick flip. It's lined up. That's not your target.
Uh-huh.
But Sinew and Steel on as a more of a casual collector / occasional speculator, sort of Sinew and Steel, one goes into your deck, and then you're going to wake up 2 years from now and it's going to be a $22 card.
Right. And I think it's great, like this, man, I'm looking for this tweet where the numbers were so, I had to retweet it because it was wow, that's pretty on point, and I'm looking for it. Once I find it, I'll point it. Also, the other thing about this is, I keep bringing this up. I'm playing a lot of Oathbreaker right now, so I'm into the format, and I think there's a cool card in that format because creatures are a thing in that format. There's more creatures than maybe creatures are more meaningful in that format because they keep planeswalkers in check, and having a sword like this which deals with planeswalkers in a planeswalker format, super interesting to me. I'm really having trouble finding this, so I want to get your thoughts. What do you think about this format? Have you heard much about it? What's your take on the Oathbreaker format?
It sounds fun. From a speculation perspective, I'm just waiting to see movement. Cards hit tipping points that are clearly driven by Oathbreaker, then radar.
But how will you find that, though? You know what I mean? Because a lot of the Oathbreaker cards are commander cards, right? And so you need to know what the uniquely Oathbreaker cards are so you can see those tipping points, right?
If something has overlap between the two and the thesis for EDH is already strong, they already own it. If it's something that's very specific to Oathbreaker that only makes sense in Oathbreaker, then I'm hands off until I start to see cards like that start to move.
Right.
From a financial perspective, what we're telling our members at MTG Price is don't bother going deep on this right now, at least not on stuff that isn't overlapping.
Right, it's stuff that overlaps is safe because it's an overlap. Dude, I can't find that tweet.
So we're just saying, test it yourself. Play the format, get a sense of it, be ready to react if things start to move. Toronto, which was one of the strongest bastions for Frontier, that Frontier community here lasted at least 18 months. And we thought the format was great in the face-to-face community.
Are they playing Oathbreaker there?
Yeah. I asked last time I was in the shop. They said there's they can get an 8-man off a couple times a week.
Are you interested in playing the format?
If I had time. I'm a fresh dad, so I'm out of time. I already have 4 commander decks and 6 modern decks that don't get played enough.
Yeah, that's true. I feel you on there, man.
I think the format, like, I question whether it is going to be compelling enough to pull people away from their commander decks. But I recognize that it is a distinct style of play, faster, more powerful because the decks are tighter, and because you have a built-in combo in every deck based on the 2 cards that you always get to have. So I'm curious to see how it plays out. I'm certainly, eye at it, but it's not. I don't think it really moves the needle for us, given how abundant MTG finance speculation has been over the last 6 months.
Well, it's hard to miss
Non-stop action.
It's hard to miss on Magic's finance speculation, I think, because the game has grown so much, and we're going to see more of that, I think, because, of the new Netflix show and, the push and the marketing that, Magic is doing. And so you have to really try hard to pick bad cards, I think, in the speculation market. Now, there are more, I guess, higher value plays, right? You might, throw a dart at a dartboard and hit, but like if you were smarter about it, you could have hit bigger, or you could have hit more on target.
Another card I think is worth flagging. Hall of Heliod's Generosity.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Is in the same camp for me as Goblin Engineer and Giver of Runes. This one obviously is tilted more towards the commander side of things, but the foils at minimum be much more rare than people realize, and it's going to look fantastic in foil. And the open-ended synergy of putting another Volrath Stronghold / Academy Ruins into the format with every good enchantment ever printed from here to eternity.
Yeah, for sure. This is just like, Academy Ruins level, Volrath Stronghold. All of those cards are over, they're over 20, right? Both of those cards.
And, for good reason. They're just open-ended utility cards that also make mana.
Yeah. And I love it. I like the pick, and I think that this is a great card for EDH, for sure. And anything, for me, it's like I still am surprised that when people are talking about, cards that are going to, be valuable or whatever, it surprises me that they're like, they still put EDH in like the minority camp, right? It's just kind of like, oh yeah, maybe that might see some EDH play or something, but not in Modern or not in Legacy, And to me, so it's like
Legacy doesn't matter anymore. If you rewind 5 years ago to why speculators thought that about EDH, was when everybody realized that a commander player doesn't just buy a single copy of a card because they don't have a single deck.
No, they have 100 decks.
I sold Smothering Tides in 4s and 8s.
Yeah.
And 2s and 3s, because they're not just going into the guy's one commander deck, they're going into every white deck he owns. And if you follow commander players on social media, as I'm sure you have seen many a time, guys stroll into the shop with a backpack full of commander decks and try to, they want to show them off and swap tips and whatever. It's a collector's format. Whereas in Standard and Modern, you might only own 1 or 2 or maybe 3 decks. You might have a Modern collection.
Yeah.
But often, if you want to switch decks, you're a lot of cards off the pace. Overlap. So if you had Gitrog built and then you wanted to build Windgrace, you had most of those pieces, and maybe you had to buy 5 or 10 cards to get there.
Well, I think a lot of people will build both.
Maybe.
Thank you
and so,
for the follow. Oh, dang, it's JG. Thank you for the follow. What I see commander players doing a lot is they'll build Gitrog, right? And then they'll build Lord Windgrace because, they don't want to take apart their Gitrog deck. And that's just, they don't take decks apart
hassle
typically.
Factor.
Right?
Yeah, the hassle factor.
Yeah.
So here's one other thing about Hall of Heliod's Generosity. We're going back to Theros. Sometime in the next 2 years would be my guess. They're going to go do the whole saving Elspeth from the underworld and what have you.
That would be great.
And
people like Elspeth.
The second they announce that, this card's going to take off.
So
full of
how many
enchantment.
are you holding? How many are you holding?
I suspect that at 350 or so, I'm probably 100 copies deep on this card.
All right.
With an 18-month hold, it goes off sooner, but probably not, because it's not like it's not going to be a important card in Modern, because there aren't enchantments that I can think of that you want to be recursing in that way, that you have time to recurse.
Right.
And so for Commander, it'll be that slow, the same thing that happens with every card that is great in Commander. It's going to take a while to get there. We saw the same thing with, like, I'm currently selling tons of Paradox engines at 40 or 50 or whatever.
Yeah.
And you could snap those off a year ago for $10 or $12.
I remember that. Thank you for the follow, Pudgy. I appreciate that.
I think Hall of Heliod's Generosity would be a good bargain at $350 if it was coming out of a standard set, like if they had printed it into the next Theros block, let alone out of a set that's twice that much.
Yeah, I agree. This is a great card for Commander, and I'm a big Commander fan. And I think that Commander is the biggest format, and it has the biggest demand profile. And, you know, it moves cards, man. It moves the needle. And so I don't like... I value Commander cards above any other format. And that's just... that's my perspective, you know?
One of the other cards you didn't mention that I think is worth keeping an eye on, especially if people have reach in Europe, is Echo of Eons, because that card is currently only about $10 on Card Market. It's a mythic. It is a time twister, and Narset is a card. So that's enough to get me
excited about it. There's a lot of these kind of cards,
right?
though, right? There's a lot of these cards that
they've done it. Not that many. Sure, but most of them were 6 mana.
Well, this is 6 mana, but you know.
Well, if you faithless looting it into the graveyard on 1, and then you drop Narset on 3, then you get to flashback at the next turn and draw 7. And they don't draw anything.
Right. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I get the use case, or, you know, the old, you know, Lion's Eye Diamond, you know, or you use Lion's Eye Diamond to discard it, and then you use the mana to flash it back.
Gross.
Yeah,
there's also in Commander, Nekosar, of course, wants copies of this.
Yeah.
So at minimum, foils here. Like, and it's not the kind of thing where I want to own 100 copies of it. It is dependent on a few things going right at some point. But there's also this outside chance that someone like a Matt Nass or a Sam Black's just going to, you know, pull a combo deck out of their ass that none of us saw coming. Not unlike what happened with Hogak. And the raw power level of this card is above Hogak. So what the potential for this card is if you break it.
I feel like this card's a trap. I mean, at foils already are $115. So I mean,
I don't want any part of that. When the foils are 40, sub 40, wake me up.
Okay, all right. I feel like there's definitely has there's a play pattern, as you would put it, that you can do stuff with it. You know, but I think the best stuff you can do with it starts with Lion's Eye Diamond, and that is a barrier to entry. You know what I mean? Lion's Eye Diamonds
and if you convince me that Legacy is the only place it's going to see play, then I'm no longer interested, because I don't care about Legacy. Like, Legacy just does not move the needle by itself anymore.
Right. I can see it seeing play in Commander for sure, but I don't see it like being like a needful card in Commander. Like, yeah, somebody's going to pick up copy for their what do you call it? Not Narset deck, but Nekusar deck. You know, like you were saying, but. Or maybe some busted, you know, CEDH players are going to want it. But, like, I don't feel like there's so many versions of this card in Commander that this one, to me, unless it sees playing Modern, it's not, you know, going to make an impact.
At 20, I don't like it at all. In Europe at 10, I'm close to pulling the trigger. Foils, ridiculous. Like, not even remotely interested.
Yeah, I could totally see it in Vintage. Like, I can understand the play there, you know, but, like, again, you know, Vintage, you know, real estate is very expensive, you know. Even, like, which card to, like, cut for this and stuff like that is super, the lists are very tight and this kind of thing, so. And also, in Vintage, you could cast it for 3. You know, because you get your Time Twister in Vintage, so.
In Modern, what's going to end up at least being attempted with this card is casting it for 3 every time, because you're just going to use one of the many ways you can to filter or discard this into your graveyard and then cast it.
Okay, so beyond Narset, though, what do you do with it, right? Because each player draws 7, right? So, like, you know, there's a drawback in that they get a fresh hand. you have to like capitalize. The reason why this like Time Twister is insane in old formats is because then you get all
Kill
this,
them before they untap.
right. You get all this free mana. That's the thing, is like you can do stuff and then you drop your Moxes and your Black Lotus, or you Yawgmoth's will, and bring all this stuff back, and then then you kill them. And that's why it's even then there's some tension, because you're like, did they draw Force of Will? Like, are they going to stop my combo? This kind of stuff. In Modern, I don't know if we have the free mana to like make use of a turn like this. Of course with Narset it's different, right? You just strip their hand, which, okay, thumbs up. But they're already doing that effectively without this card. So
they're doing it with Days Undoing, and they're only running a single copy, so that's a fair point,
right?
But the use case is proven, but only at a single copy. So that's not if what they decide to do is switch Days Undoing for this copy, that's added to the format, which is not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Kaya's Guile was a card you mentioned earlier.
Yes, and I'm not sold on it, but I'd like to hear your thoughts. Sure.
I'm not sold on it as a spec at all. I think it will see occasional play because it's got a tremendous amount of utility where like none of its modes are great, but any two of them might be good. Like making burn, sack a creature, and you gain 4 life is pretty solid for 3.
Sure. Yeah.
Like
I've noticed, like, against Burn and against Phoenix, this card does work, right? Because like Phoenix, you can get their graveyard, and I guess against Hogak now or whatever, you get their graveyard, and then you get whatever, you could do whatever.
And exiling their hand from like hand at instant speed to exile their graveyard is actually a pretty big deal, because you get to respond to whatever triggers they're trying to stack.
Yeah, no, the biggest, like, for me on this card, the best mode is the exile all graveyards.
I agree.
Like, that to me is the best mode. But like when you start looking at the mana economy for that, it's like not a 3 mana effect. I don't want to pay 3 mana for that. I want to pay like 1 mana for that. And then all the other modes are not worth the 2 mana to me. So it's like, yeah, I can see it in a specific metagame, but like not like metagame warping, or not like something that is a must, so to me it's like, I don't know, I'm not sold. People are saying this card's absurd, it's great in Modern, and man, they're smarter than me, so I'm like ready to be surprised. Like, show me the decks where this starts making a difference and moving the needle on the price, and I'm happy to see that. But as it stands, I wouldn't play it. And maybe that's not a good measure, but like I can't be convinced.
Does say each opponent sacks a creature, so it will see some modicum of EDH play as well.
Sure.
But
and that's what I mean. It's each graveyard too, so that's cool too, because you can get. I mean, it's your opponent's graveyards, so you get everyone's graveyard in EDH, and usually that's not a big deal. Typically, it's only like one person who you really care about their graveyard. But I can see those two effects being strong in EDH. But then, the black-white commander cards, this wouldn't fall in the... I don't think this would fall in the like mainstream flow of the black-white commander cards. Like when not Kaya, but Teysa. When Teysa started spiking all the black-white cards, it was spiking like the core black-white cards, and the cards that it also interacted with. And I would not,
cards.
Yeah, and I would not see. I could see people put this in their Teysa deck, but like I wouldn't see this on that same train of it's gonna ride spikes up because it has to go in every Teysa deck. I could see this as like a.
This is like Vindicate, right? It's just it's a utility card that's in there to try to handle situations.
Right, and different people might run Vindicate, other people might not. They might run. The favored card is the Anguished Unmaking. Would be like most people run that. Because of the instant speed, even though it can't hit a land. But again, splitting hairs, like I just don't. I
think Guile is a case study in overlapping utility.
Right.
I'd be speculating on are the ones that are ultra super unique. You cannot replace Arclight Phoenix with any other card in the decks where it appears.
I agree.
4 of, if it is worth playing at all.
Right.
Kaya's Guile is a utility card that could be 1/2 in the main, 1/2 in the sideboard, 0 in the main, 1 in the sideboard. It's the opposite of a staple.
Yeah, I could see it like 1 in the main, couple utility in the sideboard, stuff like that. Yeah, for sure. Like, because sacrificing a creature at 3 mana is not the worst, and And sometimes you get their graveyard. Sometimes, the mode, because of, like you said, the flexibility, I can definitely see that. But, that again doesn't like create the demand that you need to see prices move. Now, is there, by the way, chat, I know that we, again, have been a little bit ignoring you, but I have been looking at the chat just to see if you're saying anything that we need to respond to. I would be interested in questions. You've been hearing us talk about the set, going deep about some things. I think it's been a great conversation so far. And if you have questions, I'd love to hear them so that we can answer some of those maybe. So shoot them. And when you ask the question, put, at... Medina Streams so that I can see what what you're saying, so that I don't have to read everything in the chat to see it. Collective Brutality was a flex card that spiked. Yes, Collective Brutality is better than Kaya's Guile because first of all it's 2 mana, and second of all it enables you to discard cards, and so that's a different story completely because it's an enabler of different things, right? When you discard cards, you can, you can discard Phoenix, or, you can discard cards with Madness or other stuff, and this thing is 2 mana, which is, and the modes, I feel like they're a little bit more relevant. You can remove a creature, which I guess you can sacrifice a creature, but this is targeted, and then you duress them. And a lot of times the mode was duress, right? Like that was, I don't know.
I think his point stands to the degree that they are similar cards, and you could make another argument. You can say that Kolaghan's Command is somewhere in the middle, right? As another 3 mana spell that had multiple modes.
Yeah, but Kolaghan's Command is so much better, right?
And it's done relatively well financially. So
yeah, I see what you're saying. Like modal cards, like these two, which are like over $10. Could Kaya's Guile reach those places? Man, I don't know.
Here's the thing. Grixis Death Shadow had room for Kolaghan's Command.
Right.
Collective Brutality was slotted into green-black or rock builds, right? Or Jund builds. So those were established decks that had need of those cards. It's not clear what the black-white deck is that wants Guile. Like whether you're dipping into green, white, black to be able to run this card, I'm dubious of that. And I just don't see what is the tier 1 list in Modern that has room for this is the question.
I think that's a good point. And I just think also on from a power level perspective, like I just don't see I feel like these cards are more powerful than that card. So chat saying Esper Control, and legitimately Esper Control is a list you can run. The question is Esper Control any better than just running blue-white control, which is already doing really well in the field? Like I think it's the deck on Magic Online right now, and doesn't seem to be having trouble handling the graveyard decks. Yeah, Esper Control could run it, but I don't know enough about the format to say if it wants it or not. And I just feel like you put the card beside Kolaghan's Command, and I just feel like they're not in the same conversation, in my opinion. And so, and I don't know why that is. Like I'm looking at it and I'm like, I feel like I want more of the modes of Kolaghan's Command, and like on the Kaya's Guile, I feel like I want one of those modes, and the rest I just don't care about. So like in certain situations, I'm like, I want one of those, but Kolaghan's Command, like, you can always just make them discard a card, or always 2 damage, and blow up an artifact, or, I don't know. I feel like it's just better. Like the modes are just better.
In chat's defense, both Collective Brutality and Kolaghan's Command were underestimated in exactly the same way. So I think that the lesson with this card is, if it is in that family of cards,
right,
it will likely be underestimated, is being underestimated.
Right now by me.
I mean, by us. I'm not sold on it yet either.
Yeah.
But I think the safest thing with a card like this is to say, put it on the radar, in a cart, ready to trigger at the lowest possible price if you see reason to do something about it. But because it is the same rarity as Prismatic Vista and the Canopy Lance, it's going to be hard to sway me that even though their prices are already posted up to reflect their obvious goodness, where you're supposed to be, because I think that all of those those 6 rare lands are easy double ups within 18 months. Until you've maxed out on those, it's tricky to go after anything unless you think it's particularly undervalued.
So you think the Canopy lands will be like 30 to 40?
I think that if we see them as low as 12 to 15, which I think is likely, this coming weekend.
Many are 15 already. So
yeah. So I mean, if you can get them as low as 10 this weekend,
mm-hmm.
yeah, that's a solid auto buy. I mean, they're basically Horizon Canopy. Horizon Canopy is arguably not even for this template.
Mm-hmm.
So if Canopy has held a high price despite multiple printings for a long time, I think it's safe to assume that they can get to at least half that.
Okay. The other problem is they cannibalize each other. You know what I mean? Because there's so many. Like the thing about Horizon Canopy, there's no other land that did what it did. You know,
in some decks.
Yeah.
But because we only have 6 of the 10,
right?
There are actually some overlaps that don't exist.
Right. There definitely is. But what I'm saying is, like, you just add, you know, basically you've added all these options to Horizon Canopy's profile, and so, you know, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, like, I'm curious because we're not going to see, you know, are we going to see 4 of these? Maybe in some decks, but like, I don't know.
Oh, I think most aggro and combo decks will want 4 where it makes sense in their mana base, that they both want the mana early, don't care about the life loss, and would love to be able to get out of a empty hand at some point if the game goes to that point. In Burn, it's an auto include.
Right.
Auto include. In Death Shadow, they play Fiery Islet for sure in the Grixis version.
Yeah, in Death Shadow, because you want your life low. I see that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you'd also like to be able to draw into something.
Sure, you can later sacrifice it. I like that. I like that in Death Shadow because of the life thing. Because like one of the things that would be kind of like dangerous to me is like you're using it, you have to pay a life every time you use it. So, you know, you want it in decks like you're saying that have like a short lifespan anyways. Like stuff that like you're either going to kill them quick or like you're going to die, you know?
And the thing is that I think that those 5 lands plus Prismatic Vista are the most obvious value plants in the set. I think they are, in fact, the anchor. They form the anchor that defends the doubling of the set cost.
Okay.
They tested the hell out of those lands.
Right.
Everybody, and by the end of that testing, a lot of decks in the format were running them. That they were gifting the people buying these boxes with some clear and obvious staples that even if they didn't see right up front, that 3 months out will all be like, okay, yeah, these are basically like shocks.
Yeah, these are
they will be run at that. Be the 3rd most important land cycle in the format.
Okay,
that's where I'm at with them.
All right, I think I can get behind me that. I think you sold me. Like I was kind of like on the lands, I was kind of in the middle. Like, you know, I can't see them hitting 40. You know, I see them like 20, 25. Like, yeah, that's where my head was at. But I also don't like. I feel like the whole set's undervalued. So my general view of the set and my view of the lands was kind of inconsistent, right? Because like
I see the set a little differently right now. I think it's in 2 camps. You have a pile of very overhyped, overvalued mythics designed to not really even be played in Modern. Most of them. Urza obviously is a cross-format, super casual staple.
Right.
EDH, Modern, everything. But a lot of the mythics were designed clearly for Commander and casual play. That value, as we said earlier, was driven down into the rares, and they did that for a reason. If they had given us 6 or 7 Snapcaster Mage level mythics,
right,
so much trouble in 2 years, because those mythics coming out of a box that's worth double the price and cost double the price would have set up multiple $100 plus cards for Modern. As is, if Urza is a tier 1 staple in Modern, which it's not clear that he is. Tier 1 staple in Modern and sees a lot of EDH play, then he's a $60 to $80 card. Like he's probably similar to like Leovold when he was big in Legacy plus EDH before he got banned.
Like one thing I'm not seeing any real overblown mythics. You know, I think that's one of the things here is like you're saying, oh, the mythics are kind of bloated. I don't feel they are. Like
I mean, Card Kingdom's got Urza at 55 or something.
Yeah, I'm looking at not Star City. I'm looking at TCG, and the highest mythic is Urza at $44. The next highest is First Sliver at $30, which is low for a mythic, in my opinion. Like of that caliber.
I think First Sliver is too expensive. Like I think you'll see it in the 15 to 20 range because First Sliver is not a Smothering Tithe, and it's leading the deck. Everybody is going to rush out and build slivers.
No, not everyone's going to rush out and build slivers, but everybody who has slivers wants the first
it's
sliver.
This card. Yeah, right. Definitely. But it's different than, say, Smothering Tithe, where people went out and bought multiple copies for EDH because every white deck needs it.
Right. That's true.
Generally speaking, when we're speculating on EDH, we say, don't go after the commander. You know, Jason Alt's basically his entire thesis every week on MTG Price is don't go after the new hot commander like Feather. Go after the 5 cards that everybody can agree will be in that deck.
Yeah, from a speculation standpoint, sure. But like somebody who wants to have the first sliver, like I feel like eventually the first sliver is going to be over $30.
Yes, but I think that first sliver will see weakness down to 15
before it hits. It goes back over.
Because you're going to have basically what will happen is a whole bunch of commander players that know they want to play it will buy it. But then once they've got their copy, there's no further demand. That demand comes in a trickle over time as people stumble across slivers, get introduced to the format, see somebody play the deck and decide they want to build it, whatever. Like Narset, part of Veils, where one day everybody thought the card was garbage. Mm-hmm. Everybody needed to own a playset.
Well, the other thing about the first sliver, just to keep in mind, is that it's not only a sliver card. It itself is a very strong card. It's a 7/7 that cascades when you play it for 5 mana. And so, important to think about that. And I don't know.
Other 5-color decks, you mean?
Yeah, other 5-color. Like there's EDH decks, like Food Chain decks that are just running this as the commander now for the value. Especially CEDH and stuff like that because it's value. It also kills someone in 3 shots because it's 7/7. So, that kind of stuff is important to remember. Of course, like you said, you can't fight the numbers, right? Like in the end, if this set starts to flood the market or starts to get more supply than the demand, then sure, we're going to see the thing weaken, as you say, and it's going to go down. But I don't think that, I think long term, like it's going to be over 30. But back to the original point, what I'm saying is I don't see a lot of overblown mythics here. The next one is the Wrenn and 6, which is 25. I can see what you're saying there. Maybe it's got a little bit of space there. And then the Echo.
Because Wrenn and 6 needs a deck in Modern to hold that price. And it doesn't, they gave us so many Lands Matters cards in Horizons, but it just still doesn't seem to coalesce into anything serious. It looks like a bunch of streamer decks. Like Ayula's. Like the setup is that you're going to make 2/2 bears instead of throwing shocks at people with Ayula's influence from the loam, which becomes the heart of your engine as it always has been in those kind of decks. And there's no denying that there's a solid power level on that card. And if it was in standard and had access to loam or something, it would be a shoe-in to be a deck in the format. The target for the mythics in this set is definitely sub 20 for the really important ones. And they hold his floor is 30 or something like that. The rest, stuff like the first sliver, I'm looking for sub 20 because I think that at Rare because Rare is where they stuffed all those modern staples that are 4-ofs, and they're 4-ofs across multiple decks, and we'll see play in other formats as well.
Right. So what I'm saying in general though is that these mythics are not so overblown. I've seen standard sets with higher mythics than this, and this is I
understand.
You know what I'm saying? Once we start getting into these swords at $15 and Yawgmoth at $15 and the Pyromancer, something's got to give here. These mythics can't all be $15. There's got to be some all-stars here,
I think the mythic most likely to be run as a 4 of almost immediately in Modern is Seasoned Pyromancer. The testing, from what I've heard, the testing with Arclight Phoenix is solid.
Uh-huh.
Slot 4 of them into the mono red version. And draw 2 cards and start firing off spells and bringing them back.
The trouble with
Slots.
that. Now, I'm not a Modern player, but the trouble, because I played not Pyromancer, but I played the Phoenix deck, the Izzet Phoenix in Modern before, and the part of the problem with the Seasoned Pyromancer in that deck is it's not a spell, and it's 3 mana, and so typically on turn 3 is when you're bringing back your Phoenixes, and it's with spells, and there's not necessarily enough free spells to make the Pyromancer, because in some world, right, you would be able to Pyromancer, draw your cards, there would be free spells, you would cast them and then bring your Phoenixes back that you discarded from the Pyromancer. But the problem is, like I said, Pyromancer itself is not a spell, so typically you want to enable the Phoenix with a spell instead of a creature. Now, I'm not saying this is not a 4 of in Modern. I mean, there's like Grixis decks or like some kind of Grixis control deck or like other Pyromancer deck where you would play a lot of spells or something. I could see this because the value alone, right, the bodies that it brings and stuff like that could be a thing. But like in the Phoenix deck, you don't really want the body, and the little bodies, they don't really give you anything.
The thing about the Phoenix deck though is the reason Thing in the Ice is big in the blue-red version. Plan of attack. If they're going after your graveyard, Thing in the Ice and Pyromancer's Ascension are the onboard win conditions. It's important because the format is filling up with graveyard dependent decks. I mean, Hogak only takes us closer to that line where people are running all this main deck graveyard hate.
Sure.
And so Seasoned Pyromancer can fill a Pia and Kieran Nalaar type role like it was used in Jund.
Mm-hmm.
Bodies on the board for 3 mana and setting up your Phoenixes. Maybe 2 Phoenixes to deal with, plus 4 power and toughness divided across 3 other creatures. And if they kill the Pyromancer, then they're just going to have to deal with it again in a couple of turns. So it kind of turns on a go wide, grindy strategy.
I think that we need like a Modern expert to parse that, because the I guess the proposal then becomes like, do you want to slow your deck down against the stuff that's hating out your graveyard by running the Pyromancer? Do you want to do that in the main deck? Do you want to do it in the sideboard? And if you do that, you're kind of riding the fence half and half, which typically with a deck like Phoenix, you don't kind of want to ride that fence, because there'll be those turns where, man, if you would have got your Phoenixes out on turn 3, then you would have dodged their graveyard hate. But now, you're kind of with a Seasoned Pyromancer on the board, and you're not getting... They don't have Phoenixes to deal with because they now have removed them or whatever. And so, like I said, I think it's a good thing to put a caution out there to people who are thinking, oh, this is definitely a 4 of in Phoenix. But at the same time, I'm not an expert, and I feel like a Modern player who knows the matchups well would be able to parse whether that card, you want that card in that deck for those reasons, and whether it would be in the sideboard or the main deck. Would you agree?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, to be clear, what a speculator says is never as important as what a testing pro says. And anything that I say, on that
player,
angle, I've been a mediocre player since 1994.
That's why we got into finance, right?
I mean, that's why
we could do this
I
better.
Got into finance. It's not just that; it's also just the smarter way to work the meta of Magic. But that's a whole different conversation. These aren't my ideas about Pyromancer. This is pros we've talked to that are testing the card in the mono red version of the build. One of the reasons that it's more interesting than it would have been otherwise is that Lava Dart was printed into Modern, which allows you to, on 3,
free spells.
You drop a lava. Right, you got more free spells in the graveyard, which means that you're not necessarily not bringing the Phoenixes back. Maybe that's exactly what you're doing.
Okay, all right, I buy that. The Lava Dart I overlooked in the analysis, so because like I said, you need the free spells, right? You need those to make the Pyromancer the play, right? Because
if you're looting on 1 and Pyromancer on 3, then you've had a chance to get 4, 5, maybe 6 things in the graveyard. got enough lava darts and other things that you can pull it all together all at once. Again, I think I've heard that it's more relevant in the mono red version than in the blue red, where you don't have as many slots that are flexible in that regard.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
It's not clear that mono red is better than the blue red version. So,
well, maybe it is now.
But back to my point, I don't see another mythic other than, say, Urza, which I actually do think is real in Modern. But I also think that Urza slots into a KCI style category of deck. Is not smart enough to play the deck well.
Right. Like I won't make judgments on people's intelligence, but I will say that the deck is really difficult to play for sure.
I mean, Matt Nass, right? Back-to-backing big events with KCI. It's not like the field filled up with KCI.
Right.
Quite the opposite. Even though people saw the dominance, chasing KCI, because KCI is very difficult to play well.
Right.
And you don't want to give up those percentage points if you don't, A, know the deck well, and B, know that you are the kind of player that will be able to leverage the deck to its full potential.
Sure.
And I suspect that you're going to find that Urza builds is going to be very difficult because there's a lot of moving pieces, and playing Urza decks is probably going to be pretty difficult as well. So we'll see how Urza plays out, but if I had to rank them, I would say Pyromancer than Urza. Better than Mythics.
All right, now let's take some chat questions. We have from Tony Sloan. He wants to know, if we do go to a Nordic set, do you think that we'll see snow lands other than basics? What's your thought there?
So we actually thought there was going to be snow duels for Horizons. When we first heard in the rumor mill that there was going to be snow cards at all, it was snow duels, because we were like, why else would you drag snow cards back into the mix for Modern? Like, what's the payoff? We assumed that they were trying to capitalize on the meme, and that the likely template would be something like legendary snow duels.
Right. But we missed. So you think they're going to bring that into the new one, or?
I think that the template that we theorized, the non-fetchable legendary snow duels, made sense in Modern Horizons, but doesn't make sense in Standard probably. So who knows what that template is? There's also this weirdness where if they were going to do a snow set like soonish, the capital of the full art snow lands here.
Right. Why would they do that here instead of doing it in the Standard set?
Right.
Yeah.
So that leads me to believe that even if that's happening, it's a ways off.
Yeah. And they could do like the uncommon enemy duels, snow duels, because there were snow duels back in Cold Snap, and they were the allied ones, and they came into play tap. They're basically guild gates that had snow, so they could do the enemy of those.
The thing is, I've heard a couple of different things about what the fall set is. None of them suggest that it's call time. So I've heard like fairy tales versus Phyrexians or something.
That's interesting.
But I consider that a low quality rumor, because there's no name and nobody really was able to put their finger on exactly what they were talking about. All time. However, there is art floating around of Garruk holding the head of some creature in what looks like a desolate wasteland that might be snowy. Who knows?
That's interesting.
It does seem really weird to me, the whole full art snow lands, because then you would assume that, say, Kaldheim was the fall set.
Right. They're
not going to give us full art snow basics again.
No, they shouldn't do that either. I mean, I hope not, because then those things will be like 50 cents.
Yeah, it really undermines people that are holding boxes.
Yeah. I mean, they're 50 cents right now, so if you want them, you should probably pick them up, unless we get a whole flood of them.
Although it would also probably turn on things like Icefang Coatl and Dead of Winter, because the argument could be made that the snow cards that ended up in Horizons were the ones that were too good for Standard.
Okay.
Coatl's very powerful if you're playing a lot of snowlands in Standard. Dead of Winter is pretty crazy too.
Dead of Winter is great. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that.
Standard? I mean, that'd be crazy.
People would love
better than Damnation.
Well,
if you're playing a 2-color deck in Standard, then Dead of Winter is a 3 casting cost Damnation.
Right. So, that's great.
And because it only affects your opponent, right?
No, it's all creatures.
Non-snow creatures. No, it's non-snow creatures.
Ooh. You could be running your Coatl and the Dead of Winter, and you could let it survive. non-snow
anyway,
creatures.
that's all complete nonsense, like theory, until we find out. But it is pretty weird, don't you think, that we are in June and we don't know the name of the fall set?
That is interesting. I'm interested to see. It'll be fun to watch it all play out. I usually am more just watching it, like watching the whole thing play out and having fun with that. I try not to get too deep into like trying to figure out what's going to happen next. There's a lot of there's a lot of things that I'm just busy with in general that, is now things. You know what I mean? Selling things right now. So. All right.
Is there anything else in this set that you've got your eye on that we haven't touched on?
I do like the Wrenn and 6 Planeswalker. It's just suspicious to me. It's 2 mana, very powerful. The only problem is that the ultimate in it, usually you don't obviously like grade Planeswalkers in the ultimate, but I feel like getting to the ultimate, the payoff, I haven't found the payoff for that. Like, what do you want to give Retrace to that's going to make a difference? And the fact that you can get a land back every turn is great, with fetch lands and stuff like that. And the 1 damage could be interesting and kind of good in certain setups. So I like it. Again, it could just be me wearing the Oathbreaker glasses because it's really good in Oathbreaker. Probably one of the best. Unbound Flourishing we didn't touch on, but I think this card is bananas. Banana Sandwich. And
long term.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Whenever that bottoms out, I'll buy 20.
Yeah, this is a great card, and it's just one of those things that's open ended. So like every time they print an X spell, or a creature with X, or it just always gets better. It's like my classic example of that is like Knight of the Reliquary. Every time they print a land, Knight of the Reliquary gets better because it's another option that you can fetch with the Knight of the Reliquary. And the same thing happens with the Unbound Flourishing. Every time there's an X thing, it just like,
And the comparisons are made to Doubling Season. Obviously, Doubling Season's themes of tokens and counters are more prevalent, for sure.
Uh-huh.
But this also costs 2 less. So they have wants it. It's cheaper and goes off faster.
Right, and it does a little bit of different things. The Doubling Season, that's the Planeswalker, thing or token thing, but this thing does different things, and I think that like the exploration of what it does still is yet to be fully fleshed out.
I did call out the card in my article last week, and my target entry was, let me find it. Target entry on Unbound Flourishing at, I said 6.
Okay. We're at 10 right now, so as it goes down, get in there.
A week ago, it was at 20 to 25, so
Yeah.
waiting was correct.
Yeah, waiting. Yeah, because like the pressure of the set anyways is happening, even though I feel like the stuff was mediocre. It's still happening.
I have 3 other rares that have potential that I think might be underpriced. One is Aria of Flame.
Oh, that's the one that
Opponent,
gains 10
10
life,
life.
right? Yeah.
So the thing that a lot of people missed on this is you can stack these triggers. It's a battlefield. The giving them 10 life goes on the stack. You can respond, and since it's already in play, kill them on the spot before they get the 10 life.
Okay. That's interesting. I also saw it played with Kavu Predator. So, yeah, so they gain the 10 life, but the Kavu Predator becomes a 12/12, and then you smash them.
It's funny.
Yeah.
I did some math in my article. It's like the first spell you cast, 13, because this could have been a bolt out of your hand instead of this. So assume that in a red deck you're minus 13 on the play when you slap this down. Up a damage, then 2 damage, then 3 damage, then 4 damage, then 5 damage. So you really want to be in the kind of deck that can cast a flurry of spells extremely quickly, which you have to assume involves some combination of Desperate Ritual, Gut Shot, Anamorphose, Faithless Looting, and Tormenting Voice. As well. And
let's see. Go ahead. I'm gonna look.
There's some discussion that Storm might want it, or that Phoenix might want it instead of Pyromancer's Ascension. It's the kind of thing where, as you said, you just want to let people test that out, and then.
Yeah, I think Storm would probably go with the Future Sight enchantment over this, where you have to discard your hand at the end. There's a Pyromancer Swath is what the card is called. And,
The other thing is Storm just got access to Fact or Fiction.
yeah, which is bonkers. Let's put Pyromancer Swath so I can read that, because I think this is like a better version of this. Okay, Pyromancer Swath is 3 mana. Yeah, it says if an instant or sorcery you control would deal damage to a creature or player, deals that much damage +2 to that creature or player instead. At the beginning of each end step, discard your hand. And so it's the same thing, right? The other one deals 2 too. It's many verse counters. That's right. So
the only reason I like this at all is because you're going to end up getting them at 25 to 50 cents. Just right away, then buying 10 or 20 copies at the cheapest possible price is probably fine, just to go into the bad spec box with high upside.
right.
Other ones I like similarly is Planebound Apprentice. That's that.
Wait. Before we move on to that, let's talk about a little combo with your Area of Flame. Now, I'm not a big fan of the Area of Flame. I think it's trash. But here's this example: a False Cure. Okay, this card is 2 black. 2 black. Thank you for the follow. The world hates Paul. Hey, that's not nice. The world doesn't hate Paul. Come on. But thanks for the follow, anyways. False Cure says, until the end of turn, whenever a player gains life, that player loses 2 life for each 1 life he or she gained. So it's an insta-kill.
You deal 20 to them instantly.
Yeah, with the False Cure card. It's a 2 black
Nasty.
instant. And with the Aria of Flame...
Fortunately, it's in Onslaught, so I'm assuming it's not Modern legal.
You can't play it in Modern, but you can play it in Commander, which won't insta-kill people, but it is funny. It is funny. If you blink the Aria, you do kill them, because you put Aria in play, you False Cure, and then you blink it, and then boom, they get 40. So boom, we did it. Okay, so Planebound Accomplice, right?
Oh, sorry, Accomplice. Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing with this card is, right, there aren't a lot of amazing targets for it. Chandra, because it goes up mana.
Right.
When you put her in and go up 2. Ugin can wipe the board.
Okay.
Happen as early as turn 3.
And the Planebound Accomplice gets wiped by Ugin, though. Keep that in mind.
Sure, but maybe you just need to do that.
Right.
Nicol Bolas, Dragon God, can do some nasty... A bunch of the Nicol Bolases can do some nasty things.
Right.
There's not a compelling reason yet. That much is obvious. So
the
card
you know about the combo, right? You know about the combo.
Not.
You know about that, right?
There. That's streamer silliness with Cloudstone Curio, right?
Yeah, but like Cloudstone Curio. So just for listeners, okay, Playbound Accomplice. Okay, it's a sneak attack for Planeswalkers. Pay 1 red, you put a Planeswalker in play. If you put one in play that makes mana, like Koth or Chandra, then you can make 2 red, and then if you have Cloudstone Curio in play, you can then use one of those red to play another Planeswalker, and then bounce the Chandra. And then you activate the other Planeswalker, and then you play the Chandra again with the remaining red, and you just go infinite, getting infinite Planeswalker activations. And so I love it. I think it's great in EDH. It's a 3-card combo. Is that what it would be? Well, I guess 4, because you need 2 Planeswalkers, right?
What I'm looking for here is that this does something in Modern.
Okay.
And that's probably far, far away. So I bought a bunch of these at like sub 50 cents or something in Europe. I expect to put them into the bad spec, high upside box and forget about them for 4 years. And then suddenly one day they're going to print a Planeswalker that just turns this thing on. They'll just print a Planeswalker who has an ability that can be triggered immediately that makes a really big deal. That is a really big deal.
Right, and or that's expensive to cast, like a 10 mana Planeswalker, and then its ability, it's like utility or whatever is insane. It's worth way more than 1 red.
Garruk, the Relentless, is already pretty nasty.
The other thing you can do with this, which I was considering, is you can use it in a Command the Dreadhorde deck, right? So you can just activate it to drop a bunch of Planeswalkers in play, and then just bring them all back. That's another kind of like use that you can do.
Wait, this is open-ended synergy with no clear solution.
Right.
So wait for it to get down to the absolute level of nothingness, and then.
All right, let's talk to the chat. Racelinum, I will not sell you my foil Kaya's Guile because I already sold it to Applegate. So sorry about that, bro. And Applegate, if you're watching, you owe me $10, and I will probably regret it selling you that for $10. But moving on, I like Lava Dart. Thank you, Tony Sloan, for your feedback. Just a guy here. Is it worth it? Is it worth it for a player to open Modern Horizons? Yeah, I think so. You know, it's tight, but I think it's worth it. And we just talked about a lot of stuff that will move up in price. So if you want to watch the VOD, you can get all that information. You can ship the other stuff that's not going to move in. Medina's a filthy casual because he mentioned False Cure. This is true. I am a filthy casual, and I accept the title proudly. All right, yeah, Ryan, Rhino who knows about the Chandra Flamebound Accomplice combo. So that means you're a bro. Thank you, Rhino, for adding that in. And yeah, I can see other people talking, and appreciate you guys keeping each other company while we're discussing the set. All right.
Okay. There is actually one mythic that looks undervalued to me.
Let's hear it. Let's hear the hot take.
Kess Dissident Mage is not a $4 card.
I was wondering when we were going to talk about that. Yeah, that's pretty low, right? This has seen play in Legacy. This has already seen play in Legacy. Now it's in Modern. That's just too low.
End up being a smattering of play here and there in Modern in some Grixis shells that aren't tier 1.
And now, wouldn't this be a great pair with Planebound Accomplice? I mean, not Planebound. What am I thinking? With Pyromancer, Seasoned Pyromancer? Because you
and
feed,
Snapcaster.
Right, yeah. You feed some cards in there. You got a nice Grixis shell there, you know? And
I think, more to the point, it's a card that appeals to casuals. To play it in Legacy, couldn't play it a lot of the time because the foils from the Commander deck, that was the only other source, were not legal. Upgrade their copies. And in Commander, it's a great card. And EDH Rec shows it as one of the top 5 commanders of the last week. So that means it being reprinted is
really gave it some legs in EDH. Yeah. Wow, that's very interesting.
Top 10 in the last week. Pretty tight with Tessa, Yuriko, and Amanatu. Wow.
Amanatu, by the way, is undervalued. You should probably look into that, peoples. That's a growing... people are getting more and more interested in that card. Thank you for the follow. Let me see who that was. Much appreciated. Oh, Rhino. Yeah, we go way back. Thanks for the follow. Yeah, so I see Amanatu seeing a lot of play, and then also it's really good in Oathbreaker, and so I've been seeing a lot of movement on that. So we see it here on the EDH side, and if you look at the Oathbreaker side, you'll see also a lot of play. Also, it's a 3-mana Planeswalker, so can't lose.
So anyway, cast it 4, and with the 8% discount on TCG, that just seems automatic.
Okay.
12 to 18 month hold to get to 8+.
I like it. Now, we didn't talk about a mythic that probably for good reason, but there's a Mox in the set, and
I don't know what's going on there. It almost makes me feel like there's some kind of weird new mechanic that deals with upkeep, like accelerating your upkeep.
Right. It feels it's unplayable trash right now, right?
Very strange. Why they made such a big deal out of the reveal where they had they showed the guy painting the painting for an hour. The beautiful painting. It might be the best Mox art ever.
It's pretty good.
They put it on this.
Yeah, I think it's not playable. I think it is trash. I did miss that it can be played off of the
As Foretold.
No, As Foretold I already saw. I was like, yeah, you can do that, but I wasn't super impressed. But I was impressed with it being played off Bolas' Citadel. Because having a lot of those in there makes a big difference, because as you're going through your deck, you're going to want more mana sources so you can cast stuff from your hand and this kind of thing. and or activate your top or whatever, whatever format you're playing.
Mm.
And so I like it. It's also not legendary, so you can play, like, obviously not in EDH, but other formats. You can play 4 of them with the Bolas' Citadel. So I found that interesting. I saw that in the Conley list. Conley's running 1 in his Bolas Citadel list, and I thought, wow, I did not see that before. So super interesting there. But still think beyond that application, it's not very good.
A couple other sleepers potentially. Crashing Footfalls at some earlier period of Magic would have just been an automatic rock solid staple.
I saw this in your article, and I kind of laughed about it. But
So 2/4/4 Rhinos, often as foretold, is on turn 3 or
Right.
turn 2. Sorry,
uh-huh.
you can go higher turn 1, as foretold here turn 2, and then you have 2/4/4 Rhinos with trample. Sure, that blocks pretty much everything that's in play at that point.
Yeah.
And no one seems to, and you can also like Bloodbraid Elf into this, and you have a 3/2 and 2/4/4s for 4 mana. I don't see a home for it. It would be a new deck. Doesn't seem like that's likely to occur.
I think
Currently like $1.
I think you get to do a victory lap if this does well, because this is one of those things where I think many are against you on this one, James. We feel like,
I don't think. Let's be clear. I don't think the card's good. I think the card is extremely underpriced if everybody's wrong.
right.
If it's a playable rare, you're not going to play 1 copy. You'll play 4 probably. If you decide you want it, you want a full complement.
Okay.
It does not exist, admittedly. There be a reason for this to matter.
Right.
And suddenly this is not a $1 card. It's a $5 to $10 card immediately, and the returns would be excellent. For now, this goes into the camp of don't bother.
Right.
But
You'll be able to get this out of bulk boxes. So when that happens,
Maybe.
Stock up. Get your Rhino on.
This isn't even an automatic grab it when it's low.
Uh-huh.
It's a test it if you think you know what you're doing and prove that it's good.
Right.
If you're convinced, then you could grab it. But if nobody is running this and you can't make it work, then you just leave it in the bulk box.
Right. Or you could just put a copy in a deck just to troll people. Put it on suspend 4 and be like, you're on the clock.
In our Discord, people were arguing that that's not that crazy. That in some kind of grindy, fair Jund build, on 1 and do your thing for a couple turns, and then somewhere around the mid game, if you've survived and managed to Thoughtseize away key pieces from your opponent, then with trample is nothing to sneeze at.
Right. This is
actually a lot of pressure.
On turn 1. It is interesting, but this suffers from the same problem as all the suspend cards, because like if you draw it on turn 3, yeah, like it's like, okay, well, dang, that sucks, because
one of the for it is that it lines up well against all the removal in the format. One against Path, Bolt, and Push.
Right. I see what you're saying there. What I'll say to that is Broodmate Dragon, just play Broodmate Dragon. Like, that's...
In the same jank camp as that card, Merit Leja's Slumber is another one of these snow setup cards where if they give us a snow set, this might be a huge thing.
Yeah, I'm not down on this card, actually. I think this card, it's one of those things. First of all, whenever Merit Leja's Slumber or another snow permanent enters the battlefield, scry 1. Okay, so first of all, it turns all of your snow basics into, those scry lands, right? So I think that's great. It's 2 mana. It gets under counter magic, and so I like that. And then if at the beginning of your upkeep you control more snow permanents, sacrifice this and, get the 20/20 if you control 10 or more. And, I like that. I like it a lot. Even in Commander, if you're just, chilling, Commander Oathbreaker, you're playing all snow lands. Once you get, your, like I said, remember Cold Steel Heart, you can even run this Arkham's Astrolabe, to pump up your snow permanents faster. And then, put a Lightning Greaves on this 20/20 and smash someone's face. I'm not sad about this card. I think it's a good card.
I actually think Astrolabe is low-key underrated. That's actually a very powerful artifact for 1 mana
Yeah, no doubt.
because you can potentially chain them with other things. There's also the white chain to the rocks for 1 mana that gets a snow permanent on the table. But I think what really would get me excited about this card is if somebody shows me a snow card that makes snow tokens of some
yeah,
kind.
snow tokens. That'd be a good. Yeah,
say
for
there's
sure.
say there's a snow set and they have a goblin card that says 1 and a red makes 2 1/1
Mm-hmm.
snow goblins. Situation where you can get to your critical mass of 10 snow permanents faster. Even better if it's something like it makes snow treasure tokens or something, so that nobody's
Can
easily
just
killing them.
blow up your creatures. Yeah, I like it.
Right.
I like the
This
card.
is one of these bulk. This is a bulk bin sleeper. See how low it gets, and then feel like it.
Yeah, and you only need 9, right? Is it 9? Yeah, because you only need 9 other snow permanents because this itself counts itself. So, some basic lands, your astrolabe, stuff like that. And if you're running Quaddle, that's a snow guy too.
And you also get to like multiple scries into this, because if you go like, say you're on 3 in this fictional nonsense deck,
Yeah, I like it.
and you slumber then Astrolabe, you scried twice, so you're getting quite a lot of selection out of that if there's a high density of snow.
No. Say you're on 3 and you don't play your land yet. So then you play the Merit Lage thing, you scry,
Right.
you play your land, you scry again, you astrolabe and scry again, and then you draw a card with the astrolabe. Yeah.
I don't know. It could be low key a thing one day, and that would be funny. Because keep in mind, when Thing in the Ice came out, people thought that card was absolute trash.
Yeah, that card's bonkers.
And the Ice turns out to be a super staple. So.
Yeah, that thing's awesome. When I played with it the first time, I didn't realize it bounced things. And then I was like, I flipped it, I read it, and I'm like, what? This does what?
I distinctly remember the feedback on that card being, it's going to take you forever to cast 4 spells.
Yeah, like a whole turn. Oh man. All right, I think we gave you everything. You
Yeah,
know
we covered a lot.
everything. You know everything about Modern Horizons, and I think that you are now educated and can make decisions. And I feel pretty educated about opening these boxes and whatnot. I don't know. I'll give you a little bit. I'll give you another minute to ask some questions, and then James, you can do whatever you like. I mean, if you want to talk more, I'm game. If not, we can shut this puppy down. So hit us up with the questions, guys, if you have any. Sorry, go ahead, James.
My summary is that if people are looking for the path of least resistance on Horizons, get your Canopy lands, get your Prismatic Vistas as cheap as you can. They're more than Giver of Runes, but both are probably pretty solid. If Urza gets cheap enough, he's an auto buy. Seasoned Pyromancer, keep your eye on the 5-0 list and see if it shows up. And Force of Negation is in kind of the same boat. And then everything else is you're just waiting for stuff to coalesce.
Right, and don't forget about. I think also I would add to that list Force of Vigor, and the Altar of Dementia. Those cards. If you're especially if you're gonna play the what is it, the Hogak deck or whatever, you definitely want to snap in your altars now, because it looks like those are rising, and the printings were all small printings. So like it was in Tempest, it was in Conspiracy, and now it's in this set. So it was never like in a big distributed set. So.
Good.
So go on Peatlands, you think? Okay, yeah, go in on Peatlands. That was the one that
not today, but this coming Friday night when everybody's raced to the bottom, and definitely. Then look for your low point, and maybe you've got a coupon or whatever. We've got a couple of decent coupons over at MTG Price Pro Trader for Miniature Market and Cool Stuff Inc.
and
Standing coupons with places like Channel Fireball, and who's your sponsor? Abu?
And so you mentioned, so again, I put the link in the chat, mtgprice.com, and I'll put it in here again. This is James is a writer and podcaster for mtgprice.com, and you said that the membership for MTG Price is going up or has gone up. What's going on with that?
It's going up this week, so if anybody's interested, they should definitely take a run at it now because you can lock in the old rate of $49.99 per year.
And what they get access to is the Discord, right? They get access to Discord. They get early access to Fast Finance, which is your finance podcast. So like this kind of stuff that we had right now that we talked about, you guys can hear that early with the Fast Finance podcast, right?
All of the articles on mtgprice.com. So basically you're getting a 2-day head start on everybody else with whatever specs come out of our team. And that's Cliff Daigle, Travis Allen, myself, and Jason Alt every week. And that's been going on for years. And then the actual main website has a pool of North American vendor pricing of any pricing site, including stocks, etc. More price points than everybody else. And we're adding Magic Card Market out of Europe and a couple of others over the next couple of months. And then we're rebuilding all of the Pro Trader tools that allow you to do things like compare your collection and specs to best available buy list options and get all sorts of like clean, simple analysis that helps you get out of your specs as quickly and easily as possible.
Okay, that all sounds good. And I think that I wanted to plug that because, again, you're all listening to this. If you're getting value out of it, you think that, hey, this is something I want more of in my life, then, I know that James does a good job with that. And so I want to definitely plug it for you guys because I think that you could get a lot of value out of that. And so
say that like most of our members, all the stuff's cool, but the thing that's really driving returns for the members is the Discord, because not only are they interacting with us, they're interacting with each other, and they're also linking hands across the Atlantic. For instance, like European members hooking up people in the US with access to European cards,
right?
With Japan. And then one of the big things we're doing is a lot of group buys. So for instance, we did a $45,000 order for Russian cases of Modern Horizons, which are going to be very hard to come by. And we got them for about 100 less per box than everybody else has.
That sounds awesome. And so, yeah. And by the way, James did not ask me to do that. And, I'm not sponsored by MTG Price or anything like that. But I do, whenever I see something that I think can benefit people, I always try to highlight it so that, you can try it out and, see if it benefits you, because everybody's different. But,
to give people the full perspective, they could also be looking at the Brainstorm Brewery Discord and Patreon. Well worth their time and effort. Star City Games paid membership, I think, is well worth the price of admission. And on the premium side, and Quiet Speculation has been the long-standing competitive site to MTG Price, which does many of the same things. Certainly substantial differences between the two, but they're both worthwhile. Right.
And so there's lots of stuff for you to look at. If you're just getting into this and stuff, you can always do that, and I think you should. And if you're not following me on Twitter, which I think most of you are, but if you're not, I'll leave my Twitter here. You can always follow me on there. That's where I talk most, is on Twitter. So, if you want to hear from me or talk to me about stuff, you can do that there. So whose man is this? Ask, what are the prices on foil tokens or any of the wanted art cards? The art cards seem to be going in different places. I know on TCG Player, Urza was like $7 or something a couple days ago, but on Card Kingdom, they're like 35 cents. So I've heard that the art cards, you can get a full set for like $15. So I wouldn't put a lot of value on those right now. In the future, maybe, there'll be a market for that. But right now I'd look for, somewhere between the $10 to $15 for the set. And if you're trying to get rid of them, I don't know, do whatever you feel is good for you on that. And the foil tokens, I don't think there's anything that stands out to me. Theo, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that.
Because the tokens have rarity, there must be whatever the rarest token is in the set, I would not be trading that foil away.
Maybe the foil Merit Lage token.
That's probably the one.
Is the one to think about. The Goblin tokens and the Elemental tokens and stuff like that, that has been done already in, the foil versions of those have been done in Unstable. So, there's not a lot of return on those ones. I'm looking for some tokens in front of me so I can say
the problem here is that most of them don't have new art, right?
Right. They're just like the old art, and the Goblin has new art, but I don't find it particularly Interesting. There's a zombie, an illusion, shapeshifter, which is probably not going to see a lot of play. Yeah, I would say the elementals might carry a little bit of thing because of Young Pyromancer, but they've been done before in unstable. So probably the foil Barret Lage token is probably the one to look out for. I think second would be the elemental tokens because of Young Pyromancer. And also, I guess the new Pyromancer makes those elemental tokens too. Yeah, so the new one too, Seasoned Pyromancer makes those as well. So if that starts to see play, I could see those tokens appreciating over time, but probably not worth a lot right now. Too long didn't read. Is it worth it to open a box of Modern Masters? Do you mean Modern Horizons? Because that's what we've been talking about. But
he's suggesting that you messed up the stream name.
No, I said Modern Horizons in the stream name. So maybe Modern Horizons. Is it worth it to open a box? It depends on what you're trying to do. I think James has outlined some of the singles that you want to go after. So, it really just depends on what you're looking for. I think that the value of the box, like if you're going to spend $200 on a box for you to open it, is probably pretty close to, you might have to stretch to break even. And then, there are some boxes where you just open a foil Urza and get there, or a foil. One of the cool things about this box is that there's certain foils you can open where you bust the doors right off, like Urza, First Sliver, and there's even some rares like what is the rare that man, I don't know what the rare is. I can't think of it right now, but there is some rare foils that you can open that are really expensive, and so even any of the Canopy lands are about $50 to $60 foil. Yawgmoth is $100. Looking for that rare thing still. Even like Sierra the Benevolent, I sold one of those. I opened a foil one of those and sold it for $85. So that went pretty fast. I think the market price is like $100. So some of the foils you can hit, and you can hit pretty big. So, it's all about your what you're trying to do, and your adversity, or aversion to bad beats, because you can open a box and get pretty bad beats.
As we were saying, I think it's going to be very similar to Eternal Masters. There's a point where you might have regretted opening it, but if you held it for the mid to long term, you were doing just fine.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because if you open it and you feel like you got skewered, just wait, because then all that stuff will probably appreciate, or a bunch of it at least will.
If you're flipping a lot, then this is not your play, as sealed is so rarely your play, especially in a world where we're semi-regularly getting things like Mythic Edition, which are instant double ups. if you can get your order in.
Oh man, that's the bad bees right there.
I mean, and things like Japanese War and what have you. We live in a world of abundance in MTG Finance right now. So trying to flip boxes or crack and flip always looks better on paper than it is in actuality. It works better in volume when you can pre-sell strongly ahead of the curve. And as you said, we're already heading into the gold rush to sell this stuff off this weekend. So
right, I would not we're not going to open for pre-sale now. We should have been doing that weeks ago. And one of the things about that is if you open, this is probably not something you're going to do, but as a store, if we would have opened 50 to 100 boxes, and pre-sold 2 or 3 weeks in advance, then we have all that money backing the stuff we bought. Right. If we open 100 boxes now, we have to pre-sale to that point, and we're going to be chasing the bottom for that, which is just really bad situation to be in. Should I wait to sell my ME War boxes? What are ME? Mythic Edition War boxes.
You sit on we've been outing them for members in Europe between 700 and 800 US pretty consistently. On them for say 6 months, you might get up to 1,000.
Right.
But again, it just kind of depends on what kind of player, collector / speculator you are.
Or if you see another
Faster.
Opportunity, because what can $700 do for you right now that maybe 1,000 can't do for you in 6 months? If you have that 700 in play right now, other than gaining up to 1,000, what can you do? Can you make that 300? Because the other thing to remember is the 1,000 is not guaranteed. You know, the 700 might be guaranteed right now. Why not cash it in, take that money and roll it into something else, move on? You know. But that's something that I don't foresee that stuff going down. You know, I mean, some of the most epic planeswalkers in there, Ugin and, you know, Jace the Mind Sculptor, and some undervalued planeswalkers like Nahiri and, you know, Garruk, you know, Apex Predator, stuff like that. I mean, you know, to me, you know, Tezzeret is a vintage card, you know, like, feels good.
And a huge EDH card.
Sure.
One of the most important blue cards ever in EDH.
Yeah.
The full set of the walkers at $650 a couple of weeks ago, and felt good about it because it's basically you're paying $250 for Jace, you're paying $150 for Ugin, you're paying $100 for Bolas, and then you're paying $30 for the rest of them.
Wow, yeah, 30 a piece is just bonkers for some of that stuff. So
the Jace is probably, you know, maybe it gets to 300 in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
The Ugin, maybe it gains 25 or 50, but treat both of those as pretty much buying it at even. And then the Bolas, you might get up 50, 30s into 60s, and the rest of them you sell it even and you'd be fine.
Yeah, the Bolas is another one. That one is what is that at right now? Is it 100 maybe?
About $100.
Yeah. Yeah, and that one is like, I think so far that's the best Nicol Bolas Planeswalker. And you know, for some time it's going to be like, you know, the Super Friends style deck, right? The fact that you can copy other Planeswalkers' abilities, to me, like, that thing has a lot of space, you know? Another one of those open-ended things, right? Where, you know, maybe a Planeswalker is designed a certain way with their stats where their loyalty abilities make sense, but then it's just broken with Nicol Bolas, you know? Stuff like that might happen, you know?
And I noticed on EDH Rex Oathbreaker page, Bolas was in the top 5, wasn't he?
Yeah, because Bolas with the Elder Spell in Oathbreaker is awesome, because then you just kill all their Planeswalkers and you win the game. So, I mean, that's really great. It's a nice control deck. I built it. I played it a few times against some pods, and it's really good. It's a slower deck. It helps to slow the format down because you're controlling the board until you can play Bolas and then Elder Spell. And, you know, you protect it with things like Force of Negation, you know, which is awesome, or, you know, Swan Song or stuff like that. So, yeah. I think that's all our questions. I think, yeah, I appreciate everybody coming out. Thank you for joining us. And thank you, James, for all your input. And, you know, I know you have a passion for Magic Finance, so having you on and talking about this stuff is great, man. I love it.
Thanks for indulging my ramblings, and wish you all the best in your Modern Horizons sales and everybody in their collections or their speculations, what have you.
All right. Is there anything else you want to say before you take off?
You guys can find me on Twitter at MTGCritic, as well as via my weekly articles on MTGprice.com. You can check us out on the MTG Fast Finance podcast, and feel free to hit us up if you want to get a discount on access to the membership.
Yeah, do that, guys. All right, we're going to go raid Mossy Beard again. Mossy Beard wanted some exposure for his stream, and so we're going to go raid him and give him a little bit of exposure. So hang out with me for a second so we can do that, and then I'm going to call it a night. I really appreciate, again, all of you coming out, listening to this, and hopefully learning a little bit. And hopefully Mossy Beard is still game to do some streaming. I don't want to go over there and him shutting down. That would be sad times. But let's go do it. Let's go say hi to Mossy Beard. All right. Everybody jump in. Let's raid. Let's make the raid as big as we can, you know. Let's try to get in there. Give him a good show. All right, we got 13 people. I think that's good. Anybody else want to get in on this? I'll give it another, 5 seconds and then we'll go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There we go.